All right, guys. There's our new theme song, uh, obviously created by AI. I think I could find a better one, but I did do it to be a background sound that kind of sounds like Christian pop. But I'm glad you guys are here. Welcome to the Uncomfortable Bible Study. I'm really excited about this episode. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. We can actually find a lot of coherence here, both in the secular view and in the Christian view, I think. And then when we really dig into the Bible and start looking at what is Satan, what is the devil, I think it's going to get really interesting. So this is going to be a freaking awesome show here. I decided not to read the TOS. I think if we put it on the screen, that's fine. So we'll jump into that. I'm going to move this music out of the background so we can have a little bit more focus here. Hope you guys liked it. And so let's get this thing started. I'm Vibe. I'm here to host the Uncomfortable Bible Study. We are a new show happening on YouTube, in the YouTube panelverse here, where we actually bring together both people that have beliefs and people that do not have beliefs. Most of the time you get Christians jumping into Bible studies online, and we're just kind of an echo chamber to each other. But we never bring in the non-believers and their thoughts and their disagreements with the things that we think. And I felt like there was an important space that needed to be created where we actually have these open dialogues where Christians can have a good conversation with non-Christians, and actually have this discourse. And something that's really interesting is today's episode is the devil's many faces. And I believe in the wake of Charlie Kirk, and I've tried to stay out of the Charlie Kirk debates for the last 2 weeks. This is a really good episode. When we're looking at the devil's many faces, the very first thing we have to look at is what is good and what is evil. Depending on where you are in your walk of life, good and evil can be two different things. But I think ultimately when we look at good and evil, and this is what the devil represents, is he represents the evil side of things. That we all have a look at what's good. Either it's our own personal purview, or it is a doctrine that we believe and prescribe to. In either case, it is the absence of what we think is good, which is evil. And this is the representation of Satan. So this is what we're going to dig into in this episode. And we're going to start with good and evil. And looking at like what happened with Charlie Kirk, this is a perfect example of good and evil. So there are people on the right and that are just appalled by this assassination, and we think this assassination is evil. There are people on the left that also probably agree that the assassination is evil, but that Charlie Kirk in himself and his message did not align with their views, therefore he is also evil, right? And so this really, when we get into the first conversation in this particular study, it is going to be defining what is good and what is evil. Was he an evil man? Was he a good man? We're not going to talk about that. But it is a example of how we have different views of what is good and what is evil. I do kind of want to dedicate this episode to him, and I'll dedicate another episode for anybody that has a father, or that is a father. They don't even have to be a father. Any person that is killed, that is just trying to have a discord with people, no matter what side they're on, I will dedicate an episode for it. You don't have to be in my view. If somebody dies that is completely in the opposite views of what I believe, I'm still going to dedicate an episode to them if they are somebody that's out there exchanging discord. I don't like what's happening right now with the Charlie Kirk discord, in the sense that both the left and the right seem to be weaponizing it against each other to use it as on my side, which would be, I'm not far right. I'm kind of in the middle right. of things, but I'm not going to use this as a weapon against the left, especially because we have people on this channel here that are left, that are right, and non-Christian, and they're here on this channel having a discord. I'd like to celebrate the fact that there is a discord amongst people on YouTube, but I don't want people to be weaponizing it against each other, saying, look at what your side did. I want you to celebrate the fact that we're all on here and we're all listening and we're all actually having a conversation. This is something to celebrate. Whether you agree with my conversation or not, the fact that you're having a conversation with me is the key. Now, Charlie liked to have conversations. I think these panels and these discussions and this panel verse on YouTube is a great thing. Even if we swear at each other, even if we make fun of each other, at least we're showing up and we're having a conversation. I'm not searching down any of the panelists that disagree with me on here to do anything against them. And I think instead of weaponizing it on the left and on the right, and I think both sides are guilty, we should take this as an example of how we have to, on both sides, speak up more. Less with hate and more with intellectual discord of saying, can we meet somewhere where you don't want to delete me? And keep on having the conversations. If we don't agree and we don't agree and we don't agree, just keep on having the conversations. And as I had mentioned before, I mean, it's just tragic. I mentioned father, but it can be anybody. I mean, the first thing I thought of was just like, here's this guy, whether you agree or not, that was just having discord. And always promoting the discord first, not violence, was ended by violence. And that's... I don't even know how to like reconcile that. But I have my friends that do not agree with me here in this universe right now, and I hope to keep on expanding it. And the people that are on this panel, I extend extreme gratitude that they're still here, and that I look at them as heroes, no matter what side you're on, whether I agree with you or not. If you're here having that discussion, don't go home and hate the discussions you're hearing. Contribute to those conversations. Step up in chat. Talk with your family, talk with your friends. Jump on a panel and discuss it. You don't have to like the views, but I think it's really important that you open your views to other people. And part of the purpose of this whole podcast too is, like, I don't know what's right or wrong. I have something in my heart which I think is right. I truly believe in the things that I believe. I think they're right, but if I'm wrong, I mean, then I can just go into my own little universe and just be right, or I can jump on here and I can share and exchange ideas. I think there's other people that are probably like me. There's probably other people that are like other people on my panel that may agree or disagree. But there's no better way to know that you're not alone than hearing that somebody else may share, whether it's me or somebody else on this panel, shares that same idea and can expand on that idea and has that opportunity to speak up. I've had many ideas in my past where I know 100% I was wrong. There's other ideas in my past where I'm still not sure if I was wrong or right, and I'm still exploring. This is just part of, like, gaining knowledge and growing up and learning what to do, and trying to find the right result for what works best. So really long opening. Like I said, this episode's not going to be about Charlie Kirk, so I'm putting that to bed for the rest of this episode. But it does apply to what we're going to start off with in this particular episode. I kind of lost here myself in the notes. Let me catch up. Yeah, so the devil's many faces. We're going to kind of break this into three sections. The first section, we're going to talk about good and evil, and what constitutes each person's good and evil. Where do they get their ideals of good and evil from? And how do we determine those? Can evil exist without good? Can good exist without evil? We'll get into some of those discussions and kind of look at how that all works in both the secularist and the Christian view. Then we're going to go into I'm so lost here. Good and evil. Then we're going to talk about, my goodness here. Then we're going to talk about good and evil in the world. In the Christian view, we have something called the devil or Satan. If we actually look at the literal translations of ha-Satan and Satan, they have two different meanings from the original Hebrew text, which are the accuser and the adversary. And if we both have our good and evil, we can both say, based on that definition alone, that even secularists actually have a Satan. And that would be the worldly views. So all those that oppose your view would be the adversary. They're the ones that saying your view is wrong. So in the first part of this, I would say that, we're kind of defining our good and evil. The second part, we're actually looking at, is there a Satan in the definition from the original Hebrew text there, where those that oppose you can exist, right? So whether you believe in faith or not. And then finally, we're going to get into the really fun part about actually the many faces of the devil. We've got the serpent, we've got Beelzebub, we've got Lucifer, the devil, Satan, all through Genesis, Job, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Revelations, where we can build like this definition of Satan, and whether that is just the world against you, or if this is a fallen angel, a perfect being that rebelled against Christ, and maybe even get into Jubilees and Enoch that actually explains the backstory of this super villain that we have. And I'm going to try something at the end if we have time, looking at opening the panel to everybody that wants to jump on. So if we have anybody in chat that's interested in joining the discussion at the end, we'll post the link for you guys to jump up and throw in your opinions and your views. I know that in some of the past shows that we've done, there have been people that have definitely been going with me and against me, and with some of the panelists and against some of the panelists. So I'd love to give you guys the opportunities to jump up, ask questions, politely say you're wrong, give your opinion. I'm really open for open dialogue. So with that, we're going to get this show started here. Let me see who we've got online here. We've got Ryan. We've got Average Debater. We have a special guest. Don't take any offense here, special guest. You're going to be brought up last because you get a special intro. So we're not ignoring you. We've got Glenn. Glenn, you are up. I don't know if you're there, but hopefully you are. We are missing some people. But while I herd up the cats here, I'll go ahead and let each person do like a 1-minute intro and play based on this episode and the Devil's Many Faces, kind of shoot out what they want to just.
Not better for you? No, sorry.
Start with the first person on my screen, and let me bring everybody up here a little bit better. Let's bring Ryan up, and I think I just hid Ryan. There we go. Ryan's back. All right.
Oh my God. Wow. Hey, yeah, I'm Ryan, Radical Coder. I'm a progressive dude guy, and I argue about politics a lot. Sometimes I teach political code. Am I speaking to the topic of tonight specifically? I guess so. I don't know if I believe in like good and evil in any like traditional sense. I have particular values, and I'm regularly re-examining and trying to evolve those values, given like new information and new ways to articulate those values. I'm always like trying to deconstruct things, but in general, like what I believe to be good would be in line with those values, and what I believe to be quote unquote evil would be in opposition to those values. But again, I don't know that I use that sort of language very often. The word evil is very, very rarely in my vocabulary. I do ask that we also dedicate this stream to Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota lawmaker, and her husband and her dog, who were all murdered in their homes just months ago in another savage act of political violence. And to Vibe, I appreciate that you don't want to weaponize what happened against the left, but I do want to acknowledge that the president and the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, are doing so, as well as many other powerful voices. So, and that does, for what it's worth, that does put a target on the backs of people like me. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me, by the way, when I put you full screen? No. Okay.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay. Wasn't sure. All right. So let's bring in average debater here. Oh, I'm so bad at this. Okay. How do I switch this? We'll go here. All right. Average debater, it's all yours. We can't hear you.
So, all right. Every time I join this fucking website, I have to unswitch off the right mic and then switch back onto it to get it to work. Sorry about that. All right. So where does good and evil come from? I believe there's no absolute answer for that. It's not just an easy, a book told me so. I think often these things are a mix of nature versus nurture as to what we view as good and evil. That's why I see the laws usually as a direct or maybe a couple years down the line reflection of the national shared morality. Our objective morality put in a non-religious sense is what the majority agree on through the system of democracy. I think if we looked at the most religious society 2,000 years ago, most of what their daily practices are, we would view as completely immoral in today's society, partially because slavery was around then. But there's a bunch of other things as well we can start going through. But I really want to get to the part about the devil because I have some serious questions that I've been asking religious people for years on this specific topic. I just can't seem to get anyone to give me a sufficient answer. I'm not looking. I legitimately want to hear the sufficient answer. So I guess I appreciate your opening. I understand you don't want to weaponize political violence, and that's completely great. But I would like to dedicate this stream to the people that are pushing back against the white supremacy narratives and the 1619 Project narratives. And I'm glad to see in some weird way that Republicans are now using the tactics used against them for decades as being labeled the violent group, when realistically we all know that they are significantly less politically violent. Same thing with Tucker Carlson, being blamed for a mass shooting, and Trump being blamed for a mass shooting over great replacement theory. But when it's a left winger, we can't even mention what their ideology is, and we all need to just move past it. So it is kind of fun to see. All right, that's it.
All right, awesome. And yeah, I wish there was just a way to, I'm trying to figure out how to not bring everybody up and just bring up another person. So obviously I got to learn what I'm doing here. We got Glenn, so we'll bring up Glenn here.
What up?
What's up, Glenn? How are you doing?
Oh, surviving the Southern California weather.
It's not too bad today. We're getting some rain.
I know. What was the question?
So today's episode is The Devil's Many Faces. We're going to start off with good and evil, then talk about the adversaries, and then go into all the different versions of Satan in the Bible. So it was an introduction and kind of your take on that and what you would like to see from this discussion.
Well, I do think there is a thing called good and evil. I think there is a thing called the devil, and demons and all the other nasty stuff. But I don't think they have as much power as people assume they do. I think people actually give them more power and try to blame their own behaviors on them rather than their flesh. So what I like to see out of this episode is actually a better understanding of what control or what abilities the devil actually has compared to what the individual allows them to have, if that makes sense.
I think that makes total sense. All right. So yeah, we are missing quite a bit of our panel here, but I think we still have an even balance, which I'm happy about here. Let me show this, and I think I can do that. Yeah. So we have a special guest, our final panelist here. I like this guy. I think he started about the same time as me. Really cool dude. Also new to Christ, but wholeheartedly into Christ. And so, like, he taught. I'm a Gen Xer, but Gen Xers are now boomers. He's not a boomer, by the way, but he's the one that taught me what based mean. When I say something and everybody's like based, I'm like, what the heck is that? I don't know, because I'm a boomer. So I don't mind admitting how irrelevant I have become, even though my generation basically created everything you guys are using. Still love it that I got the younger people out there keeping me relevant here. So our special guest, if you haven't heard of him, is Lower Class. Awesome guy. This is his superhero image, and we'll go ahead and bring him up. Lower Class, I'd like you to kind of introduce yourself, why you're here, your journey. You get more than like a minute, but I really don't want to go over like 3 minutes. So just kind of bring in your story and what you see from this particular idea of Satan, good and evil, and so on. So it's all yours.
Hey, what's going on? I don't need a minute. There's not too much to say. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. I'm Lower Class. I just do political and religious content online. I found Christ last year in about July. I was an atheist first 25 years of my life, started to believe in God back in 2018, found Christ last year. And I just, over the past like 5-6 months, I have really actually wanted to dive deeper into that and learn more about that. I'm here because I met Vibe. He showed up on my own channel and my streams, and we've had some really good conversations, and I'm honored to be invited on as a special guest today. Thank you, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. It's always good to have good people. Everybody on this panel is good people, by the way. All right. So let's get everybody back on screen here. It's like I need a producer here to like run all this stuff so you guys don't have to sit here and wait. Is there such a thing? Like, can we do that? Just out of curiosity?
Yeah. It's like Joe Rogan has Jamie. You know what I mean?
That's what people pay me for, Vibe.
Ah, okay. Is there somebody snoring in the background?
Sorry, that's my dog. I'll mute.
Okay.
I have a pug. He does that.
All right. I think we've got, let me just hit up Dusty here, because we actually were debating the other night. We had a lot of discussions on this, and he sounded pretty excited to get into this.
Lower Class. The last time I said I only need 1 minute was to my wife.
Right.
Oh man. All right, let's get rid of that. And there we go. We got everybody up there.
What happened to Ryan, Radical Coder? Where's he at?
Oh yeah, Ryan was here. Did I hide him from screen? Let's see, we got. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's bitching. Glenn, Lower Class, Average, Vibe. Okay, these are all the people I have in my back room at the moment. I don't know what happened to Radical. Get your ass back here, because you mentioned something really interesting, which was I don't believe that there actually is a good and evil. and I am very interested in that. So yeah, the very first thing I did want to kick this off with, before we even talk about Satan, I believe that in the Christian view, and I actually believe there is a Satan in the secular view as well, if we actually look at the adversary. The adversary is somebody that doesn't believe in what you believe in. This is the person that you fight. There is, in the definition of Satan, in the original Hebrew manuscripts, there's Ha-Satan, and I don't know if they actually said Satan. I just think it sounds better to say it that way. There's Ha-Satan and Satan, which is singular, but there are points in the Bible where it is Satans, where it's plural, meaning that there's more than one. Ha-Satan is the accuser, basically saying you're doing wrong. And then there is Satan, which is the adversary, the person, the people and persons that are going against your personal view. And I don't think we can really talk about that until we actually talk about, is there actually good and is there actually evil? And what is good and what is evil to each of the people on this panel? I'd like to kick it off with you, Glenn, on your view of what you think is good and what evil is.
I'm evil. I mean, there's nothing good. I mean, the best thing about me is that I try to be more Christ-like than I was the day before, but naturally I'm just evil. You know, my fallen state would be evil. They would say then that our flesh nature would be evil, per se. But when you say like the accuser, the accuser, Satan, that could be multiple people. If you look at it from that angle, then even a Christian would be considered an accuser of a non-Christian, and that would be their evil.
Right. And so I get where you're coming from, but what would you define as good? And because you're already saying I'm evil, but what is your definition for why you're evil? Because that would be
the definition of good would be, the definition of good would be Christ, right? He is the only good person to walk on this earth. So anybody, that's the standard bearer. So everybody falling short of that would be evil.
Just a quick, I don't know what's going on, but I can hear AV. I can hear Average Debate when he's it says he's muted, but I can still hear him on. I don't know why, but
that's weird.
I was talking to my chat.
Yeah, that happens in Streamlabs Talk Studio sometimes. So it's just something to keep in mind.
But I can hear somebody's cat playing with a toy.
Oh, you can hear it. Might be Umbreon. Umbreon's playing.
Okay.
With
That's my butt plug vibrating.
You got bells on it?
Yeah,
he has a bell.
Christmas
Umbreon has a
starts
bell
in
on his
September for me.
collar.
He's got a Beelzebub plug.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is my winning strategy against him. Is I actually have the remote to his butt plug right here. So
wow.
The fact that you have the remote bothers me a lot, Vibe. And your name is Vibe too.
These aren't the sort of jokes I've come to expect out of Vibe. This one caught me off guard.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna get shit for that. But
nicely done. Nicely done.
Christians can
W for the butt plug.
You know that's evil. Don't you know butt plugs are evil?
I agree.
Not if you have a.
I don't necessarily
put
agree.
a cross on the pommel. Put a cross on the
That's a
pommel.
whole other story. I don't think there's any particular passage out there that says as long as it's between your wife and yourself that says that is evil. So that I would put in a whole nother debate. But God did create sex. He did create that intimacy between a man and a woman, specifically a man and a wife. However, that man.
What's gay about letting a grown-ass woman peg you? Am I right, guys?
It's less
a lot
gay
of the time it goes the other way, Ryan. I don't know if you knew that.
It's less gay than banging a dude. Barely, but it is.
So that makes her gay?
Exactly, right?
All gay.
Let's
do we want to? We can keep going down the pegging. Okay, no.
Yeah, let's keep this on topic.
Interfering.
And we're going to go. We're going to go to lower class here, because we're going to start with the Christians and their ideas of good and evil first. So for you, lower class, what in your mind, what is good and evil?
So I mean, it's kind of an ambiguous concept, you know. I was an atheist for 25 years, like the first 25 years of my life. Never went to church. My family wasn't religious, anything like that. And then I started to believe in God about 7 years ago. And I've only been with Christ for about a year, you know. So I'm really new to these kind of concepts of like what is good and evil when it comes to Christian terms. But from my own terms, it really just kind of comes down to like self-centered carnal instinct, right? Not selfish, self-centered. Doing things that actively harm other people for your own benefit, whether it be sexual, financial, whatever, right? That's like evil in and of itself to me. I think that's the most simple way to put it.
Being self-serving, especially in the harm of other people. All right, and then Average, I know you love to study and put all your stuff together. I know you just said you didn't this time, but let's hear your logical view.
Again, I would go with my morality is one that's very unpopular. It's rule utilitarianism. And so I think my morality comes from what the democracy says as good and bad as acceptable in society. So what we see as good and evil often change. And again, if you go back to the most religious Christian society 2,000 years ago, a lot of their practices would be viewed as evil today. And you could say that technically they were closer to the Bible than we were, or maybe let's say 1,800 years ago, that they were closer to the biblical scripture and acting it out than we were. So I think it has a lot to do with how society is functioned, how you were raised, how you were nurtured. If you go to a place where there's radical Islam and not like Indonesia or anything like that, where there's actually like violent Islam, their good and evil is different from ours in drastic ways. Women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and things of that nature. So a lot of it is depending on where you are in the world and how you were raised and how the society is functioning. So I think it kind of is ever changing based on new discoveries, new philosophies, more conversations to parse out things like adultery. Adultery was considered an evil for a long time, but here in a liberal society, we say if you want to go ahead and have multiple spouses, go ahead, and it's really just going to affect you. You're the one that, you know, it's not hurting me. Go ahead and do it. So we don't view that as so much as evil now because we allow a liberal, small L liberal outlook on the country. So I'd say it has to do, it's kind of contextual, and it's a little harder to figure out than just this book told me.
All right, Dusty.
Am I muted? How's my audio?
We can hear you.
Okay. I was just thanking Rude Mudcrab for donating $5. He said what I was thinking. If God didn't want me in her beast, why he wouldn't have put it so close to her V? Praise God, man. Thank you, Mudcrab. I think that evil is. I assume that when you ask about evil, as a deist, you're thinking of it in terms of universal, black and white. From God's perspective, I view morality as subjective. I view good and evil as. Basically, I like it, I don't like it to a large degree. I don't think that there is a blanket evil. I think that there's contextual evil. But I'd say the closest thing, malice is what seems evil to me. Or I'm sorry, sadism. To me, sadism looks like the closest thing to the archetype of evil. But I also recognize that you can construct mental exercises in which even something that sounds completely evil at first, it's actually the right thing to do, right? So, what's evil? I think usually it's just a way of clutching your pearls even harder than if you said I don't like it.
Yeah, and by the way, I totally get these views from both you and Average Debater, and I think we can start getting into the weeds. But let's find out Ryan's. And by the way, Ryan, I have to go close the door, but I've got my speakers on, so I'm still listening. I'm going to let you go, and I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Oh, we can't hear you.
How about now? We good?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I don't know that I believe in any sort of like objective good and evil in a traditional sense. I have, my values, which, like I said, are kind of always evolving, given new information. Something similar to what Tyler described. Although I don't know if I'd identify with that like the strict term. Perhaps if I read more on rural utilitarianism, I might. I do feel that there's like there's a few like distinct categories that I find like to explore these questions. Like there's what I think like should be illegal, which is like things that I want the government to stop people from doing at all costs, essentially, or within reason, and then there's things that I have preferences for, like that I would prefer people not to do, but I don't want the government to interfere with their ability to do so. Like, for example, voting for Republicans, I think is a bad thing to do. I think it's a harmful thing to do, but I don't think it should be illegal to vote for Republicans, right? And then there's also people will say like, oh, it's just preferences. In some sense, that's true. But I feel like there's a fundamental difference between like a preference for like ice cream flavor. Like I do have a preference for cookies and cream, but I have no concept of whether or not anyone else should eat any particular ice cream flavor, except maybe mint chocolate chip, which is objectively evil. Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation for sure.
I totally agree. There's no reason to put toothpaste flavor into any other food.
Did you just say mint chocolate chip is evil?
Yeah, it is ontologically bad. There's nothing morally wrong with doing anything to anyone who eats mint chocolate chip. It is truly an abhorrent stain on society.
I'm going to say it too.
Absolutely.
Scotch is gross too.
I love that.
It's like bourbon with dirt in it.
I absolutely love that because yesterday we did a little beach break and we went down to the beach and we got ice cream down there, and my 7-year-old son ordered mint chocolate chip, and we both shared it and we thought it was great. So
you're gonna have to put him up for adoption.
We got news for you. Hate to be the one to tell you this something this vibe.
So I mean, just a poll here, like. Is every other Christian on this panel also a fan of mint chocolate chip? Is that just a trait of Christians? Or is that just a trait of me and my son?
It might just be a trait from you and your son, man. It's not for me.
I was going to say, we might have discovered something amazing.
Thank you.
The smell of sulfur, weird noises at night, liking mint chocolate chip. These are all...
I got to make my
modest. Shows your palms.
I got to make my first point to the debate that we're going to be having here. When Vibe just mentioned his 7-year-old son getting ice cream, he said, my 7-year-old son, and it sounded to me like parcel tongue. So I think that Vibe is actually the great Lucifer.
Out of curiosity, Vibe, do you know your Hogwarts house?
What's
Slytherin,
that?
obviously.
Do you know your Hogwarts house?
Oh, no, I don't know my Hogwarts house. No.
Because he's not a bitch.
Only Salazar Slytherin was a parcel tongue, and there were very few others that were all Slytherin.
Yeah.
So obviously,
yeah, Ravenclaws know what house they're in. So
yeah, so this is I mean, it's really interesting what all of us are saying here, and it sounds like you guys are kind of agreeing in the sense. So I mean, as Christians, we have a set of what's good, and it's written. Most of society, for the last 2,000 years, pretty much agreed with that. But it started, humanity started changing. And they started saying,
Agreed
well,
with what?
You know what?
Sorry, I zoned out for a second. What did they agree with?
What?
You just said most of humanity agreed with something for 2,000 years.
Oh, agreed with a basic set of morality of men and women getting married, the things that Christians believe as right, but then society started evolving and started changing, and the secularists started growing and started saying, well, now we believe this, and it doesn't line up with Christian values, and we're starting to separate, and now we're starting to not like Christians. We still like them because they agree with most of us, and now we went all the way to 2025, where the morality, which you guys also admitted, like I think Radical correct me if I'm wrong, you said there isn't good and evil because you can't quantify what is good and evil. Even Average Debater was like, as we learn more, we learn that what we once thought was good is now evil, right? So
Sure.
well,
can I just one other, I guess two things there. Like number one was the idea that like everyone always agreed that, you know, or well, most people always agreed it's just a man and a woman. I will point out that, you know, even back then there were people who were gay, who were trans, and they did not like the status quo, right? They in fact, they're probably the reason that as they got a louder voice and we're able to understand where they're coming from, we became more likely to, as a more liberal society, we became more likely to, you know, allow them to do that. So,
I mean, there's been cycles throughout history, right? Debaucherous, not debaucherous, debaucherous, not debaucherous, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to get nasty about it, right? I mean, kings have been buckering little boys forever. You know, I mean, since the beginning of time, even when it comes to the Romans and the kings in England. However, they still were able to maintain manhood through their perversities, right? They weren't. They didn't consider themselves gay, and Christians still didn't consider them correct. These things have existed for a long time, but Christians would say that those were all going outside of. It's like a drug, right? I like to drink. I like to do coke. I like to put my dick in something. It doesn't make it right, right?
based.
Wait, are you doing question hour now?
Speaking of that, I got a cantaloupe over there.
Yeah, I need at least a watermelon. I don't think that you can make that blanket claim for Christians because, I mean, I don't call myself the Pope for no reason, if you catch my drift. There's sort of a reputation throughout the history of Christianity of them not being sexually moral.
So you're putting that title on yourself. You like to bunker the little boys too.
That was the joke.
Sorry, I had to throw it back at you.
I know, I deserved it. Just set myself up.
I do think it's kind of interesting that we jumped immediately from, you know, accepting like the reality there are gay people who might want to have consenting sex to child abuse so quickly. And I think this is one of the concerns that this is one of the
Can you
concerns I
not
have.
do it immediately? Immediately,
One
you're
of the concerns
doing
I have with it's very relevant to the conversation. I think one of the concerns that I have with like this sort of idea of like the Christian morality and stuff is it's like it's dependent on interpreting, you know, whatever God might want, the creator of the universe may or may not want, assuming they even exist, instead of like examining what people right in front of us are, or whether they're being harmed or not, whether we can conceptualize that they are experiencing something, what we might deem as an unpleasant experience, which I think obviously a child being treated as you described the kings treating them obviously was, and as two men who are having consenting sex are obviously not. So I think it's a very, just a really interesting like point.
Yeah, and let's dig into that, right? So you are right that I took it to an extreme, right? And as a Christian, I'm taking it to an extreme. But the real point is the immorality of that. So you and I here are now sharing an evil that we both think is evil, right? You said, hey, I can't believe you took it to that extreme. But I took it to that extreme because I think everybody on this panel, and if there is anybody that disagrees with me on that being an evil, go ahead, raise your hand. But now let's let's start stepping it up.
On the man-boy thing or on the man-man thing?
No, kid stuff.
Man-boy thing,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, no, that's evil. We're good with that.
Yeah, I think everybody on this panel can agree, and I think everybody on this panel can also agree that that has been something that has been happening through history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we can go back before Jesus, and you know, even in the Old Testament, we can look at the Roman Empire, we can look at the English Empire. We all know that this was happening, and we all agree. Well, we don't agree that there is an evil or a good. However, this is one thing we all agree is evil. And maybe the only reason we all agree is it's evil because right now society all agrees that it's evil. And if we actually say anything others, we know we're going to be banned from YouTube. We're going to be banned from our friends. We're going to be banned from our friends and family, right? This has been now This is the one thing that nobody throughout the history of life, no matter how far we evolve, that we're always going to realize is evil, right?
We're talking about kid diddlers?
Yes.
That and littering. People
Well,
really don't like littering.
I wouldn't say everybody. There's a few exceptions in there. There's NAMBLA, and then there's like the radical feminist movement from the 60s and 70s and things. There were some people that tried to work it in over history.
Oh yeah, NAMBLA is evil in my mind, right? And I was saying on this panel, we all agree with that. But now we can start stepping up from that, because there's literally things where we could have had panels if they existed back then. Well, they did in courts and discussions, but not on YouTube, where they would have been against the things that are now being promoted today, right? So we keep on stepping up from that. So we went from the worst scenario. Now we're going up to, as Ryan appropriately pointed out, is man on man bad, right? At one time, most of society thought that was, even though it was happening all through history. So I'm not saying, because your original argument, Ryan, was, well, that's been happening all through history. Now we're just accepting it. My argument when I went to the extreme was that's also been happening all through history, right? There's no difference between that part of it. Now you're pointing out that society has evolved to the point where we're now saying that is acceptable for some of us today, and there's a fight there, right?
Well, I'm making a slightly different point. I think when I talk about how it was always there, what I'm pointing to is that there were always people who were having a very, what we would probably deem an unpleasant experience, who were being refused access to the rights that other people were given. Right? People were being treated horribly, people being stoned to death, people who were just like otherwise like shunned from society for doing something that intrinsically we don't really. There's not, at least I've never heard an argument that it's, truly harmful in any meaningful way. Like these are two people, again, consenting. But in the other case that you brought up, it's very clear. We all agree someone is being harmed there. Someone is being explicitly, clearly, demonstrably harmed. And it would be that child who can't consent by any reasonable definition to such an act. So
then my question to you guys would be, would there be any point if, like, through evolution of America, society, let's just go to the universe. Would there be any evolution through the universe where that particular thing, even if, because what you're talking about happened, your point was this happened in the past. My point was this also happened in the past. We all still agree today that what happened in the past is wrong, but you're saying the other thing has been happening in the past, but now we think that one's right? So how does this evolution happen where some things are universally always going to be wrong, but through time, other things start not being universally wrong?
Well, I'm pointing to something that we can recognize harm. We can expand our bubble of empathy, right? We can recognize that there are people suffering based on.
You can still say that there's
actions.
harm on both sides, though.
What?
You can say there's harm on both sides.
In regards
It's
to
because, like, in regards to the guy that's being gay, he's not going to procreate. That's harm.
Yeah, but why
It's
is that
harming
harmful?
Society.
to not
I
have
mean,
babies.
Glenn makes a really good point there,
agree with
because
that
you
at
said
all.
what's good for society, right? Two men do not produce children. That is bad for society, right?
That's not bad for society. That may not grow society, but would you say that everybody is obligated to provide how many children to the society?
Well, I guess it comes from your worldview, right? If you come from a Christian worldview, it's going to say.
Well, no, I mean, like, if you think that it's, I mean, is there an obligation to provide children to society, and how many per adult?
Well, to be fruitful and multiply would be to provide children for society.
So, incels are bad. Gay people are bad. People with illnesses are bad. Like,
No, I think you're saying like it's the choice. It's the if you have the ability and you choose not to. That would be the bad. Like, not the people that are
What if they adopt?
able to procreate. Like if they have like a physical health issue and they can't, I don't think that's what we're saying. The thing is, we're saying that if you choose not to, that's what we're saying would be bad.
I just think that mindset that like would even mentally just impose parenthood on somebody who doesn't want it is so overreaching and invasive. That's immoral to me.
And
Hey,
also
you know what?
probably
I would
probably
agree with
harmful
that.
for that child, right? Like like forcing someone to
Yeah.
raise a child who doesn't want to, like that child is not going to be in a very healthy situation, like obviously.
Well, they
And
could
now
also
you're
do
getting
this,
into
right?
another discussion, which is
Get back in the
deleting
kennel, Timmy.
of human beings. But I actually agree with you, Flo, in the sense that we shouldn't force people to have kids that don't want to have kids. I think in our world, our Christian view, we don't want to force people to have kids. If you're going to have kids,
You'll sit there and judge them.
I'm not judging. I have no authority to judge.
It doesn't matter. You do it anyways. Don't play those fucking word games with me, Vibe. Do you think that somebody who could have kids but chooses not to, are they doing something immoral?
No,
Okay.
100%. They're not doing something immoral.
I never said they were doing something immoral. I just said they're harming society.
That would be immoral, I think.
Well,
So
some people.
I
Some
think
people will say,
there's
okay,
an
like, for
interesting.
example, here's an example, like right, because like Flo, you're big on like stopping the war on drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody could say, well, not stopping the war on drugs will be harmful to society, but you would say it's harmful to society to continue the war on drugs. So I guess it kind of comes from your perspective, right?
I don't think this is a good analogy. Like, one of them proactively destroying the lives of people, and the other one is, well, it's a completely invasive mindset, right? Somebody can be a part of society, in my perspective, and not owe me shit. I don't feel like my neighbor has an obligation to have kids, or else he's doing harm to society. By the way, if you think somebody's doing harm to society, you're judging that action. Right?
I never
That's
said
a judge.
that. I never said
I
don't
know.
judge people. I judge
Right,
people
right,
all the
yeah.
time.
I was just kind of clarifying.
Well, I think this all points to the distinction I was making earlier, like where there's stuff that we would prefer people to do, like there's maybe moral preferences that we have. Like I said, my example was I would prefer that Republicans don't vote, but I would never want to make it illegal for Republicans to vote. But and similar to Glenn, I feel like we might want people to have children, but we would never want to like make it illegal for people not to have children, right? Or to force them to have children against their will. At least I hope
like,
not. Although the abortion conversation
it's like sugar. Like I eat a fuckload of sugar cereal. Is it ideal? Probably not. But is it bad? No, I don't know.
I mean, if it's cinnamon toast crunch, it's not bad. It's actually heavenly.
It's Apple Jacks at the moment.
Love that.
I could give that a pass. I could give that a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, we can break down like what we believe is immoral or moral between the two sides, but ultimately, when we're looking at good and evil, what I'm trying to determine and I'm trying to ask is, if I'm going to come from this as a professor at a university that is 100% atheist, a Dawkins-like type of philosophy here, and I were to look at the universe and go, okay, there's probably a best outcome for the universe and a worst outcome for the universe. Now, it's impossible for me to know what the best outcome of the universe is, but if theoretically I could know what the best outcome for the universe is, then I would actually have instructions for good and evil based on a secularist, utilitarian idea. If I could get this is how the universe is going to last the longest. This is how the most amount of creatures out of all the planets, of all the galaxies and clusters and everything will succeed if these particular patterns are followed. Would that not be in your guys' worldview? And I know you can't, we can't figure that out. So you can throw back like that's impossible to know. I agree. But if somebody did tell you like, we know that this is the longest and best ending scenario for the universe, would you not then try to follow that prescription?
I mean, if I had to be here to see the end of the universe, yeah, but I don't think I'm compelled to that right now. I'm going to die long before that happens.
So it's self-serving, the virtue of selfishness.
Well, I might encourage people to follow that, right? I might say like, hey, this would be the ideal situation, but that doesn't mean that I would override other values of mine necessarily to force people to do it, right? I think that's the distinction again. That I
yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
selfish.
I don't think it's selfishness more than like serving the now rather than serving the later. Like, there's things you can do right now that might conflict with that worldview, and if it comes to the two, when you have juxtaposed how the universe ends versus making somebody's life better today, I think choosing life better today is probably the better path.
Even if it hurts the person tomorrow.
I mean, we're talking about hurting the pain coming at the end of the universe.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that all those decisions for you today are the ones that are leading to the universe ending sooner, other people suffering. I mean, it's the same thing, and not to go left, right here, but like the left, and I agree with them on this. They're like, hey, we got to freaking control the environment because we're going to kill our kids. I'm worried about killing my kids, right? I want to give them a good environment.
Well,
I'm thinking about
they want to kill their
tomorrow.
kids anyways.
So, I mean,
Well, most people who
Are
seek an abortion already have kids, but you know.
Taylor, are you just
there, I
going?
guess.
Are you just going like, no? It's what makes me most comfortable today. I don't have to worry about the repercussions of tomorrow.
In all honesty, that's how we got to where we're at today in society.
Is
worried
when
about
life,
now.
Where we all get to sit comfy and have this Bible study thing on every Sunday.
best
when
human
we enjoy
beings have
ourselves
ever
and
had
eat
it.
sugary cereal. So it's pretty
The
happy,
best.
right?
The best society human beings have ever had, America.
I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. I get to YouTube for my life. Yeah, I mean, life's good for me.
So can I if you donate money to me, guys, by the way.
Oh yeah, and like make my day better too on my end, and donate money to me, and on Ryan's audience donate. Ryan, you know, everybody's audience donate money to everybody, frequently and recklessly. I think that there's you're always having to weigh trade-offs between present and future, and between, you know, this person and that person, right? That's the nature of moral situations. I don't think that we got here. I think that there's a big tendency in people to look at one as the good one and one as the bad one, right? Like, selfishness is the bad one. Don't be selfish. Well, that's bullshit. I don't think that you can actually separate selfishness from altruism, because we're also such social animals that what's good for me probably going to be good for all you here because we're in a community together, right? So I can act selfishly, and if it works out, everyone's going to benefit. That's the invisible hand of the economy. So I know I didn't answer the question, because what the hell was the question?
Well, and I'll agree with you the virtue of selfishness, because I did throw that at Taylor. I do think there are advantages to that, and I think that's something that Christianity promotes, is take care of yourself first, so you can take care of others. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So I am not 100% selfless. I am selfish in trying to become selfless, right? But I can't do that if I can't take care of myself. I can't provide. I can't give to others if I'm not able to provide, right?
Individualism is post-enlightenment. It's actually the root of liberalism too. So the post-enlightenment society that pushed forth that what you just said is the reason I think the way I do as well. So,
and I don't. What I was saying earlier was, you know, like, selfishness can be of mutual benefit to others. Self-centeredness cannot. Self-centeredness solely comes from the concept of harming other people when you're doing for yourself.
There's a balance, just like with everything. But I think what's interesting to me is if I look at the selfishness, selflessness paradigm through a Christian lens, I see Christians out here condemning selfishness, condemning themselves. Really, Glenn's a sinner, right? Like, straight up, or evil. That's what he said. I see a lot of self-flagellation still out of Christian psychologically, but God made you, God loves you, He said you were good. Like, how blasphemous is that?
Yeah, so I mean, it comes back down to trying to keep this back on topic, but the discussions are basically trying to figure out where do we stand on good and evil. It is a very interesting topic, because for us, we have a set, like, we're claiming that universal knowledge, and you guys are claiming, well, you can't ever have that universal knowledge, and we're just going to change it as we evolve through time. And then my original argument was a lot of people prescribe to that, but as we go into this world where, we think actually there is there might be a universal truth that we'll never know, but we're just going to keep on changing it as we see fit. Therefore, your guys' evil today may not be evil tomorrow. And that's kind of the big discussion here. But ultimately, what I was trying to get to is that you have a set of morals that you think are good, that you do not betray most of the time. Sometimes I think all of us, Christians and secularists, betray our own morals. And when we do that, we go, well, that was a bad thing to say. That was a bad thing to do. And we think that is evil. And what I'm trying to get to, and Ryan did make one mention where he said, I don't think there is a good and evil. I think in each of us, there is a good and evil, even if our good and evils are different. And so I actually kind of want to close this segment out with statements from you guys, whether you agree that, yes, we all have our own personal goods and evils, and sometimes we are evil in our own goods, but and even if they don't match, we all do have a line that we say, I think this is good, I think this is evil.
It sounds like you're talking about the Jungian shadow self, right? If you're familiar with Jungian psychology, it sounds like you're referring to, and I'm very much a fan of it. And I think that I don't like the distinction of evil as, oh, this part of me is evil. That's part of you. Like it or not, you need to learn to control it and integrate it and turn what could be a weakness into a strength. We can't manage what we're not aware of. And so I think that I disagree with how what I think you were stating entirely, that there is good and evil within all of us. I think that there are different components of us. Some of them we are more comfortable with than others, but all of them are us and should not be rejected, but should be understood and managed.
I mean, so, when it comes to good and evil, if we're going to speak in like a general sense, I think, everywhere across the world, we have so much more overlap in what we believe is moral and is immoral. And then that to me would be the objectivity, where the subjectivity is all the things on the outside of that, right? Where like, there are people who believe that being gay is an absolute sin, you're going to burn in hell. And then there's other people who believe that that is just the way that you live your life, right? And it's those things that are on the outside of those massive overlaps that kind of lead into the subjectivity thing of morality.
What do you think, Tyler?
I want to first get to your last question real quick, and it kind of ties into my answer here. How things change over time as we learn more. So as the post-enlightenment or the Enlightenment era happened, we learned things like individualism, and it was founded on religion. We had all these principles, but those principles weren't instantiated in the law. There was still slavery for another, 150 years in the UK and 170 in the United States after this era ended. And so it took time for the philosophy and the consistency to iron out in terms of how civil society works. Plus, you can't change something like that's an economic structure. Going from slavery to free enterprise, it's not something you change overnight, maybe not even in one generation. So it just takes time and transitioning and trying to be more consistent with your principles. But that kind of goes into what I'm saying is everybody does have their own version of good and evil. And again, how I parse it out is everyone gets to go to a ballot box and voice what their view of good and evil is, and what we come to through the voting experience is the consensus to some degree of who is mapping out what steps we're going to take to progress the definitions of good and evil in which direction. In the last election, it was Trump, and previous it was Biden, and then previous it was Trump, and keeps switching back and forth. So both sides kind of get to steer the ship in their own direction to get us down this path. But I think everybody does at the end of the day have their own definitions and things that I might personally see evil as evil. You guys might not. Like, I see anybody picking a support hero and then taking mid and then losing their lane and blaming their offlaner. That's something I see as evil, and I want that person to burn in hell. But you guys don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. So it's kind of subjective to your personal life, your experiences, and things like that.
All right, Glenn, do you have any closing comments on that? The good and evil?
Radical Coder is more eviler than I.
That's true. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm gonna kind of sound like a broken record here. I really just don't use the word evil a lot. I think there are, like, if I am going to point to something that's evil, it's going to be like things that are in opposition to my values, and things that are good would be in alignment with those values. I do agree with a lot of what was said about us each having our own perception of what those are, because I think we all have our own values. Sometimes we might outsource those values, which I think is what a lot of Christians do. We outsource those, or they outsource those values to religion, which is fine to some degree. I think that I also like what was said about everyone having like kind of a like evil inside of us. I guess like I was reading a book earlier, In the Name of Identity, and one of the lines that stuck out to me was this quote, or this idea that we all have like a Mr. Hyde in us that can reveal itself given certain circumstances. And I think that's true. I don't know that we would all internally recognize our own Mr. Hyde as the Mr. Hyde. There might be some there might be two different faces to that. Like what I perceive to be someone's Mr. Hyde might not be what they perceive to be. They might view that as their Jekyll. But yeah, I don't know. Interesting stuff.
It kind of sounds like a cop out. Like what you're saying is, I have a value system of good and bad. I don't want to say evil if somebody's in my bad category, because I don't want to call them evil if they disagree with me. It's like I still want to be nice, even though I disagree with you. So
it's not about being nice. So to be clear, it's not about being nice, because I don't like I'm okay with being mean sometimes. I think it's in fact sometimes I think it's immoral not to be a little bit mean. But it's more about like not wanting what my labels to come with all of the baggage that the word label or the word evil is packaged with. So just for what it's worth.
I was going to ask what is the information or that's added that evil adds over bad?
Well, I mean, that was kind of my point, is that I kind of think like you either believe this is a good or bad response. In this particular conversation, I'm using bad interchangeably with evil. I'm not actually putting any more preference on bad and evil. I'm just saying I think this is a good result. I think this is a bad result. Bad results are evil.
But I mean, isn't evil? Evil is just bad with like more oomph, like really bad, right?
I guess if you really want to put it that way.
In my view, it comes down. It's something similar to what Tyler was saying, and something I've kind of reiterated a few times here. Like, I feel like when I say something's bad, I feel like I'm saying that it's something I just don't want to happen, and that's like I prefer it not to happen, but it's not something I want there to be any sort of like force exerted on someone who's engaging in that behavior necessarily. But when something, I guess if I were going to use the word evil, like I would want it. Like if I was gonna anything I describe as evil, I'm probably gonna want like government interference to like block that thing. Like I want to use whatever means we have to prevent people from doing that thing. So
you don't think Trump is evil?
Categories. I don't really know. I think he does. He does what I would probably consider evil. Like, I mean, like cutting off USAID and letting millions starve is pretty bad. But I'd say that's evil by any definition. But that's just me.
Well, wouldn't you say that those funds should have been like allocated to our own homeless?
Vibe intercede. This is gonna go for tangents.
I'm not gonna bite that bait.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll wrap this up. But
I would say that's why you're more eviler than me.
So ultimately, this is something that really I get upset with a lot, right? So there are certain things in the Christian book which we consider evil or bad, and they're all pretty much have the same outcome, right? So God, when I'm in the worship center, I have a bunch of ladies that hand out bulletins,
Nice.
make sure people that they get their seats and they can find seats. If they have children, they bring them something. If they don't check them in because the kids are scared of going to check in, they bring them little booklets that they can color in and things like that. And half of those ladies gossip. And this is actually something that is said to be bad in the Bible. Like, you should not gossip.
Right, is it only half or half that you catch? Because I think the answer is 100% of women gossip, but you've only caught half of them.
Well, and the truth is 100%, including the guy that is actually the leader in that group, have all failed, right? Yeah. I'm not perfect. All of us fail. And we're like, when we talked about homosexuality before, a lot of non-Christians think that we actually think they're worse than us when we don't. I personally hold them at the same standard as my girls that are gossiping and myself that did something bad that week. They are not.
I do not believe
category. We're all in the same category.
I do not believe you. There is no way on earth that you can think that you know and are following, or at least attempting to follow, the universal God's rightness, and we are not, and not think you're better than us. Like, that's baked into the claim.
No.
It's baked into it.
I am talking about within our belief, right? I know that I'm just as much of a sinner. Glenn actually said it perfectly when he said, I am evil. Like, I heard it and I knew I wanted to mention it later, that we have to all understand that all of us in our faith are equally evil.
That is cognitive dissonance. I hear what you're saying. I don't believe it out of any of you.
Dusty, hold on. So the whole concept is...
no, Dusty, you definitely believe it out of me, though.
We're
probably the
all
closest
sinners.
one, but
we
barely.
all do things that are wrong. Mm-hmm. That's where everything starts from, right?
Yeah. But the concept that you, because you are following Christ, you'll go to heaven and I'll go to hell, and God has deemed it thus, means that that is absolutely an elitist position. There's no way
not
it's
necessarily, dude. It's just that's the way I choose to live my life right now.
You don't think that something that God chooses to save and something is better than something that God chooses to destroy for eternity?
So this is the way I look at it. It's like,
well, we don't even know what hell is, man. I mean, like, there's people who make claims, right? But Dante's Inferno was written by a guy who had a dream. He didn't actually die and go to hell. He had a dream. That's not like From my perspective, that's not what hell necessarily is. You know what I mean?
I know that we don't know
from my
what
perspective,
hell is.
It's being without God.
If you believe in an afterlife, and if you believe that Jesus is the key to the afterlife, then that means that you believe, per God, you're better than everybody who is not Christian.
I mean, you say that, but you're not reading my mind. I'm not a Christian, so I can be better than anybody else. I'm a Christian, so I can make myself better than who I was yesterday.
And I do want to correct and back up lower class here on your retort on him. Is that as a Christian, if I believe that I'm better, then I'm probably going to hell.
Yep.
I actually have to accept that I try my best, and I hope when I sit there at the door that when I'm sitting in front of Jesus and he's shining in his light and he goes, you know what? You donated, you gave your 10%, but all you did was gossip about people. And you didn't realize how much harm you did during that gossip. Like, off with you. And I don't even know if you do that because I am an idiot. I don't know how it works. I can't ever understand how the universe was. None of us can understand how the universe was created. This is all I can do is just try to be good to people, whether they're homosexual, whether they're not, whether they're alcoholics, whether they're schizophrenic, whether they're abusers. All my purpose in life is just to be the best I can be and try to be the best to everybody, regardless of what
Sure.
walk of life they're in. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
But you do believe all of you, and yes, I can read your mind. Actually, in this case, you believe that lower class, that God, all of you do, that God will choose to save you, but choose to get rid of us. That means
Not
that's God.
necessarily.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I deserve hell, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if I end up
Right.
there, well, then that's
Okay.
I'll go with where I deserve. Right.
Okay,
I don't know if I'm going to heaven because I
your
believe
mic
in
is
God.
hot. Your mic is hot.
Who mine?
No, lower classes. I mean,
Sorry.
So, okay, do you
So
yes or no? Do you guys think that the only way to get to heaven is through Jesus?
Yes.
Yes.
For me, it
Okay.
is.
Okay, well, that was a dodge, but I'm going to take it as a yes. So, if you believe that God will choose not to keep us after we die, but he will choose to keep you because you did the right thing in life,
You're
explain to me
phrasing
how
it
that's
wrong.
not.
Well,
How
we
is
didn't
that-
actually say that he's going to choose us. I
So
think
the way I look at
everybody
it-
on this panel all said we actually don't know. We might be going wherever you're going. And
I know
who
that you
knows?
don't know, but I'm not asking about your belief.
you're
This is your
more
belief system.
virtuous than we thought, and you end up there. We don't
I know that you-
I can't tell you that.
Of course you don't know, but that's not what I'm asking. You were referring to your dogma, your belief system is the cornerstone of it. Is that you have to do this thing for God to deem you worthy to save, and we're not doing the thing.
Well,
But
That's
what's
really
this
the
thing?
way I
For the
look
record,
at
I'm
hell
fairly
is more like
confident I'm
this.
not going to heaven or whatever or hell. I'm fairly confident that there's no.
I hope you go to heaven,
either. Thank you.
and I hope you hate it.
The way I look at like heaven and hell is like this. Hell is like you choosing to not accept God, accept Christ, and locking God out from like locking the door on the inside so that he can't come in. Right? It's not that God is sending you there, it's you sending yourself there and choosing to make sure that he has no way to access you.
Right.
It's a rejection of him.
Right. What was
So that way it's not God sending you to hell, it's you choosing hell and choosing not to have communion with him.
And there's that Christian gaslighting. God created everything, but he's not responsible for anything. You're responsible for the things that you know.
Well, that's where free will comes in, right?
And this is fucking retarded. The cognitive dissonance that you people have adopted is crazy. If a manufacturer makes a car that blows up when you turn it on half the time, is it the car's fault?
No, it's God's fault.
How is it that God gets all the credit for the good things in the world, but has no responsibility for anything bad when he created everything?
Why did you buy a bad car? You're responsible.
Why didn't you not look at the review first? I mean,
Turns out I didn't get an option. I was just put in a car. Here you go. Good luck. Hope this one doesn't blow up.
you were just put in the car. You could have
Yeah.
chose to walk. You just didn't want to walk, so you're lazy.
No, I'm talking about putting life. Oh, I could have chose not to be in this paradigm, the Christian paradigm. It's the same plot as the movie Saw, honestly, where you wake up in a situation and you
Take a
it's
leg. Take a leg.
Right. So, yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that, but a lot of cognitive.
It's okay
dissonance.
because I'm hiding all you guys right now. I've got my sponsors screaming at me that I haven't actually done the sponsorship yet. Yeah, I gotta get good at this. they need Satan needs me to do his promotion. Don't know if that makes me good or bad. We'll see in the end. All right, so I want to move on to the next point here. Let's see. Do I have everybody on screen? On screen? I think I do. Did we lose somebody?
No,
I don't know, but I can hear Tyler's typing still. I don't know
that
why.
that
I don't know why
keyboard
it
is
happens.
crazy.
It's so weird that we can hear it even though he's muted. Like restream or
It's
Talk
a
Studio or whatever,
$300
always
silent
happens.
mechanical keyboard that I've had for less than a year. It's top
Well,
notch.
it's not the keyboard. Like I don't mind it. Obviously, like you were muted. It was like
No,
it wasn't.
He said it was crazy. Yeah, it's just the restream. But he said my keyboard was crazy. My keyboard is amazing. I can't lift it up.
Okay,
Sorry.
well then your type, then all of the stress that you carry around with you in your day-to-day life, it comes out in your typing. You need to stop repressing all that shit because you type like a serial killer.
I'm a programmer,
your
man. I
keyboard,
type fucking 120 words a minute.
Too many fucking programmers on this panel.
All right, so the next piece I want to go into, and I really wish Beth doesn't need to be on this one, but Beth, if you're out there listening, get your ass in for the next section. But in this particular section, I want to talk about something I was talking about before, and we're talking about the devil's many faces. We went through evil, we went through good, and I actually kind of wanted to bring the devil into the secularist view. And the whole reason I was looking at like defining good and evil was basically the idea of if you don't believe in me or my views and what I personally believe, not me, but Ryan personally believes, what lower class personally believes, what Tyler personally believes, what Taylor personally believes, what Glenn personally believes, then you are an adversary of me. Now, if we actually read the Bible and we do literal translations of Satan, there are 3 different translations in the Bible. Most of it is Ha-Satan. I talked about this at the beginning, and Satan. And the 2 different versions of that is one is the accuser and one is the adversary. We can look at books in the Bible like Job, and in that particular case, he was the accuser. Not necessarily the devil himself, but somebody on a panel that was basically the defense attorney trying to do a trial. Then we also have the adversary, and that is the person that does not believe in what I believe in. When we do these debate panels, when Ryan and I disagree, I am his adversary. I am Ryan's Satan. And when I'm debating him, Ryan is my Satan. If we just go by, let's just take Christianity out of the whole thing. If we just go by the Hebrew translation of adversary, then we actually are getting a translation here that has a coherence between secularism and Christianity, and that is basically being the adversary, those that do not believe in our beliefs. And if I'm a father, I'm a secularist father, and I have a great marriage, I have a great family, I have a great career, I'm doing everything perfect. I may be the founder of Pornhub, but I give good morals to my kids. I don't let them see what my job is. Everything is great. Am I in the wrong position of looking at everybody that's against the thing that provides my family a great living? And if I am, then as a Christian, I am the adversary. I am Satan to this guy that has a family, one marriage, kids, great father, shows up. I am his adversary. I am his Satan. So what I'm kind of looking for in this particular question and this area of debate is, can us as Christians and secularists actually agree whether Satan exists in our lives, even if our Satans are different Satans?
If I can, maybe I'm actually about to hop off probably, but I appreciate this so far. But to respond to the topic here, I guess the whole calling it when we're having a debate, I as someone who goes on a lot of debate panels, right? I do this like pretty regularly, almost daily. Like I don't. I mean, I feel like the framing of like my Satan, there's a lot of like grandiosity that feels kind of imbued into it that I don't like realistically, like when I'm arguing with you, Vibe, or no offense to any of you, like when I'm arguing with you guys, like you're just some dude on the internet that I'm like arguing with. Like it really doesn't like go much deeper than that, like at least in that framing. Like it's like, yeah, we have differences in values. Like I'm a guy. I'm also just a guy. I'm just some dude who like has the internet and wants to like put out my opinions and disagree. And I feel like the whole Satan stuff adds like a lot of extra narrativization that I just it feels, yeah, again, like maybe grandiose is the best word to capture like what I feel disturbed by about it. But
I also dislike it because I like the debate example is a good one, because I actually very much appreciate somebody like Ryan who will argue with me and then come back again the next day and not get in his feelings, because I understand that that's a hostile situation that not everybody can. So I don't at all agree that's I just think that that's not I don't know if it's a bad example or a bad way of looking at the world, to be hostile towards people who don't agree with you, and not instead of seeing the glass as half full. I think you can see the glass as half full or as half empty, and
My point though was that the Hebrew translation of what I'm talking about on Satan is the adversary. So, like the other night, you and I were debating, Taylor, and I was your adversary and you were my adversary. Now, if we were actually to translate that into ancient Hebrew, the word would be Satan. So you were, in your mind, debating Satan, and in my mind, if we're just going by definition, book, not Christianity, you and I were both debating our own Satans.
Sure. I guess I understand that, but the way that Satan is used today, it carries a whole lot more baggage with it than when it was written in Hebrew.
See, so for me personally, when I look at things like the devil, Satan, things like that, and this is just how I see it now. Like, I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been practicing Christianity for a year. When I see this, it's all internal things, right? Like my internal adversary, the aspects of myself that hold myself back, that do damage to myself, right? Like for instance, like my Satan right now is alcohol. I drink way too much, right? And that holds me back. That hurts me. Just things like that. You know what I mean? Like when I'm on a debate panel, like with Ryan or Flo or whoever, like they're my adversary in that moment. But once I leave the panel, it's like, I think
that's kind of how words work, is kind of my point too. Like adversarial, it definitely has a concrete definition, but really it's how we use it contextually. Like my adversary right now is you guys in this, but it's more like a rivalry adversary and not like China's our adversary on the world stage, and we see that resulting in proxy wars and things of that sort. They would be more of an adversarial power that's conflicting against our power. I think the scale of the word has to do with the context itself. Like libertarians would be the adversary to common sense, and things like that.
What's your favorite flavor of boot?
I agree a lot with what Tyler said. And I think there is really like these different scales. Like in fact, in this conversation, like I barely feel. I feel like I may be like adversarial in some sense, that I'm like pushing back.
Who's
on
mumbling?
A lot of like specific things. I don't know. Somebody's doing speaking in tongues in the background.
I hear that too.
Well, yeah. Anyway,
I'm looking for it too. I'm looking who's
Satan. Satan showed up. He's like, I heard my name.
It's the Satan. But like I will say, like, the way the scale is and this is probably like one of the lowest like thresholds. But there are like, you know, if I'm debating like somebody who has a lot more influence, like let's say I'm arguing with like Andrew Wilson or something, like I do take it a lot more seriously. Like I do believe that there's like a lot more at stake. Even though like I'd say those conversations even are not. They're not like particularly high stakes realistically, but they're higher stakes than this conversation, right? But yeah, that's kind of the final note.
Satan heard us talking.
Ryan, you gotta go walk your dog.
I want you to remember that you
I
made
walk
that
my
comment.
dog. So he's a stubborn ass wiener dog, dude. He just cries because I'm not letting him out into the.
When you're breathing your last breath, I want you to remember that comment. You'd be like, "Damn, that comment was a really high stakes conversation." Because I'm gonna get you.
In mind.
Satan heard us talking about it, and he heard his favorite political view mentioned, libertarianism.
True.
You're so gay.
Thank you, Vibe, for having me. See you guys later.
Hey, Ryan, it's always a pleasure having you. We have to do a one-on-one on something. I think it'd be fun.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Maybe on a waterbed. That'd be fun for you guys.
Taylor, can you send the butt plug over to him before the debate?
I'm using it. Get your own.
It's got to be a Trump butt plug. You know what I mean?
Got a little "Make America Great" on the
I'd
butt.
imagine that they have, you know, interchangeable sort of designs on them.
Would not doubt it.
Damn, if that, I'm gonna have to do some research.
They do, and
great. That might.
The 2024 one is a pain getting out.
All right. Well, okay. So we always know that the chat always wins. And the final section I wanted to get into, and I did actually mention that I might open this up to open panel and bring other people in. I do see some things coming in. I apologize, chat. I cannot do this and read chat. But while some people were talking, I was reading, and I did see animated effigy and Agrippus throwing some comments out at the end here. And I really like what they are because they were exactly what was the final topic I wanted to go into, which really was the purpose of this particular Bible study, which is the many faces of right? And they were bringing up Lucifer and the morning star. Christ was actually called Lucifer. Lucifer is not a name, by the way. It's a description of somebody that is of a high status. So I'm gonna jump into that next.
Lucifer is a Greek concept, right?
No, so the Greek concepts really kind of come down to, and maybe I'm wrong here, is like two sides fighting. So when we really look at, oh my God, I have so many notes on this because I've been doing it for 2 weeks. I just have to get to the right notes here. But actually, instead of finding the notes, let's just jump into the final piece here. And this is kind of the piece where the secularists and the Christians actually definitely differ, right? Because we're actually getting into the theology of the devil. Secularists are basically like the devil doesn't exist. Christians can take many different views of what the devil is, right? So we have the serpent at the beginning of the Bible in Genesis. We've got Job, who is actually fighting against the devil with God. And when I first read Job, one of the things I do on this uncomfortable Bible study is I actually say what I really thought. When I read that.
Did you just say that Job was fighting against the devil with God?
No. God and Job basically made a bet when I first read it. This is the way I read it. Hold on, let me finish. God was saying, hey, my people are good, and I'm going to challenge you on this. And he's having this duel, like it's like the violin duel, right? And he's going to show that his people will prevail in him, regardless of what the devil does to them. He'll never lose faith.
You mean the devil and God had a wager?
Basically, right? And by the way, I'm not saying I'm right on that. I'm saying when I first read it, that was my interpretation. And my first thought was, why would God ever do that? If God is omnipotent, omni-infinite, all these things, right? Like, how would he ever, like, he doesn't have to do that. Why would he even do this?
That's a really good question.
Well, I mean, that because he knew he was going to win either way. He won the bet either way because he was omnipresent. He already knew what Job would do.
Well, I mean, why would
And
How did
before we
everybody
get-
not know that?
And
So
before
he
we
likes
get
back-
before we
back-
get into the debate
back
here
for them
of
to win.
that, this is I'm talking about the descriptions of the many faces of the devil. Now we can talk about that. I'm not actually stopping that conversation, but I want to get through the whole thing first before you guys jump in on this. So now, as you reread that and look at it, and we actually look at Satan and the word that was used in the original Hebrew, it was not the adversary; it was a singular as the accuser. And we this actually will get into Lucifer later, and Ezekiel, where we actually talk about like the fallen angel, the perfect son of God, where this may not have actually been Satan.
Isaiah.
Well, so yeah, I mean, when we in the canon we have Genesis, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Revelations that talks about the Bible, talks about Satan. We have the serpent, and then we have the accuser in Job, and then we have the morning star Lucifer in both Isaiah and Ezekiel, and then we have the devil, and we have
Isn't
the
Jesus a morning
dragon,
star too?
which is referred back to the serpent in Revelations. Now that's all we have.
Also, the accusers in Revelations 12:10.
Yes.
And it isn't Jesus self-referred to as the morning star?
Yes. So, and because Lucifer, in some opinions, is not a person; it is a title, right? And Jesus was called Lucifer, a morning star. When we look at Isaiah, when they're doing the poem, it's children doing a poem mocking the Babylonian king, or we can look at that as the Babylonian king actually was Lucifer running that and was a fallen star. There are different interpretations that happen. Lower class mentioned Dante's Inferno, which has nothing to do with Christianity. It is just something he came up with, and that's where the common conception of the Bible comes from. And then, if you want to even go further, there is really no backstory, whether the accuser is the world, all those against Christianity or against the moralities of Christians, or if he's actually a physical person. If you look at Enoch and Jubilees, now we get the whole backstory of the fallen angels. Now, in the New Testament, or sorry, not the New Testament, in the Old Testament, we do have in Ezekiel that when the perfect being that God created, which is now considered Lucifer, even though Lucifer is a name that was given to Christ and him as being a perfect being, we have this whole story of I started going so fast there on all my ideas.
I mean,
of Satan being, he brought down 1/3 of all the angels. Those angels became the demons that we know now. But there's a whole nother story in Christianity as well, where actually it's the Nephilim, which is the angels that fell, that reproduced with humans, that when they died, they became the demons. And in Revelations, when they went down to the pits of fire, the death of the souls of the dead Nephilim when they died became the demons after that. So there's lots of stories in Christianity that vary very much, and it also adds backstory if you add Enoch, which I don't like to do, or add Jubilees, which give backstories. It's like a Marvel comic book, right? I want to know the backstory of all the fallen angels, but those were not included in canon for a good reason, in my opinion. So I like to leave those out, but the story does change. So my final segment in this was to open up everybody else's thoughts on this. And by the way, just to throw this out there, I've been doing so much research on these things to learn all these different views, and they weren't necessarily my views. Everything I just threw out is not necessarily what I believe, but I do know Lucifer is not a person. It is a label. It was used for Jesus. I don't know, to be honest, if he was the king of Babylon, if Satan himself, the snake, went there and then fell when he was saying he's going to rise higher than the stars of God. I don't know
Lucifer,
these things.
from what I understand, that represents a prideful rebellion.
Yeah, so the fall was the pride. Now, was the pride of the perfect being Satan or the devil? Was the pride of that particular king who was thinking he was better than God? There can be two different interpretations there. And I went to my pastor this week and I told him what I'm doing. And I realized, and I literally said this. I said, I've been studying so much for these studies that I'm opening up to the world, and I don't know what I'm saying, and I'm wondering if I'm coming up with the book of vibe. Does this even follow my own? Does this even follow my own religion? And I asked him.
I totally would read it. I may not like give it much credit, but I'll definitely read the book.
I'll write you forward.
Well, I mean, here's my point, though, and especially for anybody that's watching, like, don't trust me. Like, whatever Christianity you're in, go to your elders. I am not your elder. I am sharing my confusion when I read the Bible, and my questions, and I'm opening it up to the world, and I'm willing for correction from Christians. Now I know Dusty's like, you're not going to take correction from me.
He's not. You're not. You think you're not going to, but guess what?
But you know what? I do listen to some of your things, and I do actually look them up, and I try to find reconciliation between all of them. And I'm opening this up to the world to do that.
You are too logical to ignore the things that no matter how much you might try, you can't ignore them that well. I don't think.
And as a result of my meeting with my own pastor, he showed up to church today. He walked over to me and he handed me a book. I read the first page, and it's Understanding Theology. He didn't give me good answers. He didn't tell me if I was right or wrong.
Did you tell him your channel name? Where is that ninja? Get up here, Pastor.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, I mentioned this before. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a theologian. I am not an expert on this. I am just sharing, as I go through this, my experience, and I'm sharing it with atheists and agnostics. I'm not sharing it with my brothers here that are just going to back me up. I'm sharing it with the people that are going to tell me I'm a freaking idiot and I'm insane for what I'm doing. So,
Vibe, I would love. I could tell you did a lot of research because you just flew through a lot of different things about the history of Satan really quickly. That would make a fantastic pre-recorded video. I'd be very interested to watch that if you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is interesting. But this is the final leg of this whole thing, and it really is going into the devil's many faces. So I can break it. It could be broken into many different categories for Christians, but I can break it into two basic ones. There are Christians out there that are looking at the Bible from almost a secularist view, but actually know and have been touched by Jesus. That kind of goes to my first 2 points. Is that there's an adversary, and the Bible talks about the adversary, and the adversary is those are basically against His word. There may not actually be a physical Satan. Satan may be those who just oppose you, and that mankind in itself is Satan alone. The second faction would be that actually Satan is a real person. He was the serpent. He was a perfect being created by God who through pride fell, came down to earth. Actually, it was given a domain. 1/3 of the angels followed him down there. They now are part of the lake of fire. That is their domain. However, through Christ, when Christ was born, basically defeated that, and through Revelations will be the final segment of that story. I actually don't have the story to tell you of which one's correct. I'm opening this in the final segment to give everybody's opinion. And I saved it for the final one because I assume people like Ryan would probably like jump off once it wasn't secularist anymore. And we actually do get into the theology here. Beth actually had told me she had a bunch of stuff on this too. So I was really excited to see her jump up and give her preview. I know, Glenn, you texted me yesterday to be prepared for this as well. I'd love to get your preview. And then lower class, I mean, you're new in this. I'd love to hear your newity of ideas in this, and of course always love the secularists. So with that, I've been talking a lot. I'm going to shut up and let you guys go.
I've been waiting for this. This is the subject I've been waiting for since we started doing this. So first off, Beth, I'm sorry she didn't show up. It's my fault. She owes me a debate. She wants to advocate for private schools, and she is dodging the hell out of me because she knows she's about to take that massive L.
Oh, I'll fuck you up.
Oh, you won't.
I'll fuck you up on that one.
I am about as pro-public institution as one can be, and I just crushed the debate on it last night. Anyway,
so what's your flavor of boot? You are such a cuck.
Hold on. So going into the conversation, if your pastor checked out this stream to see what you were talking about, I feel bad for him because we had a long conversation about butt plugs. So what I've heard from the past is Vibe said he doesn't think the devil is a specific entity. So I want to kind of go through some examples that I've looked up in the past on this. One, it would be the most credible witness from a religious perspective would be Jesus. Who the hell was he talking to in the desert? Did he eat some bad mushrooms? Zechariah points to this as a supernatural entity. Job points to this as a specific entity. Genesis 3 points to this as a specific entity that turns into a serpent after escaping hell and then interacts with angels while there. Matthew and John point to a specific entity. Ezekiel and Isaiah both talk about an angel that rebelled against God and took a large, I think it was a third of the angels or half the angels with him and rebelled. So in multiple points of biblical scripture, it's stated that this is a specific entity. So my question is, if Satan was kicked out of heaven, cast down to hell, why doesn't he make hell a place that people actually want to go to? Why is it torture, fire, brimstone, and the devil sticks pineapples up your ass like we saw in Little Nicky, as opposed to you get down there and it's basically a giant like paintball game where everybody's
spiff the place up.
Yeah,
Satan.
like you're getting trained for the holy war and he wants to attract people. Why is Satan's PR so
Probably
bad?
because when you're in jail, you don't get to decide what furnishings.
But I mean, we have to go into Milton for this, but he built a damn castle down there called Pandemonium, and Milton isn't really scripture. It's more of a fantasy fanfic of the Bible. But like in all these instances, like how did Satan escape from hell? He walked out the front door and he then went into the new garden that was earth and then transformed into a snake. So you can see that he has some dominion over the area. So why does he torture? Why does he act as the jailer, the warden, and the torturer? Yeah, but why? If his ultimate goal is to rebel against up top, why not turn? Like, is he stupid? Is he so emotionally driven that basic logic just bounces right off? And if so, why is he even a threat in the first place?
I don't know why Christians don't. I don't want to know why everybody doesn't treat the concept of Satan as archetype, right? Jesus spoke in parables, like that was his thing. So it would make sense to me that we can apply that lens to everything. Satan, I think that Satan absolutely exists as an archetype. I think it's very much an archetype in humanity's psyche.
That's exactly what I've been saying this whole time.
Man, whatever. Well, I obviously wasn't listening to you. I was obviously just yelling at my own memories or something.
I don't. Hey, Flo. I never expect people to listen to me. It's okay. I'm fucking nobody. You know what I'm saying?
That's too bad. You should find somebody to fuck.
It's a good idea.
So yeah, I mean, it was kind of my point too.
Maybe Vibes Pastor is a hottie.
No, yeah. So, and by the way, I am sending the link of this show to my pastor. I think somebody was yelling at me the other day of
you're going to hell, Flo.
Of saying that I wouldn't accept, like they were yelling at me, going, because I was yelling at another Christian, and I was on Dusty's panel, going, you would be willing to accept money from non-Christianable actions such as PDF, people that go against all Christian morals, as long as you don't promote them, you can take their money. And his only thing was, and everybody's like, well, Jesus.
No, he had a fantastic response. If you're going to paraphrase, I'm going to correct.
Well, you can correct it, but I mean, ultimately, the response to me, and I'll let you respond to me, was Jesus hung out with tax collectors and prostitutes. And I'm like, I do that on my freaking channel. You're my prostitute. Flo?
Who's a prostitute?
Wait, what? I zoned out.
Average debater is my tax collector.
So Flo's a prostitute?
I feel like I'm the pimp.
Okay. That's fine. That works.
You feel like it, but we're talking in practicalities.
Pop your collar for me. Pop a collar for me there. So my question about that is, so the hypothetical was somebody bad, like that's against Christian world. Oh, Andrew Tate was the original. Wasn't Andrew Tate the original example? Andrew Tate gives me or offers you money for free, no strings attached. Just here, I want to make a donation. Do you take it or do you decline it? And obviously you take it because what would be the purpose of declining it? What do you accomplish with it? There's no accomplishment by declining that
I
resource.
literally took it.
Go
Yeah,
out
I
there
mean,
and get Daddy his money flow.
but you can't. There's no conceivable benefit to declining that money except to like let the world know that you don't like that person, right? It's very self-indulgent.
Did you guys really use Andrew Tate as the example?
Wasn't it Andrew Tate? I think it was, yeah.
I mean, I took $10K from Andrew Tate when he donated it to Thor's surgery.
Damn, I need to get him. You need to get him on my grift cancer campaign.
I mean, was that wrong? I mean,
I don't think so at all. Like I don't even and that even went to like a good cause, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say it doesn't, like, let's say it goes to my cigarette habit. So fucking what? Where it came from? I'm not. It's not like I'm helping promote that or doing anything to support that. There's literally nothing good achieved by me going no, not having it. Nobody ever did offer anything good or an explanation of what the harm or benefit of the action would be either.
I mean, if the Bible says God uses all things for the good, so that means that he could even use bad things for good, money from bad people for good. So I don't.
I mean, Noah was a drunk, right? Like, would you turn down Noah's money? You know, it's
maybe it's money, but I'll definitely take his boat.
I think that whole position of I would not accept money from somebody that I judge to be a bad person. That entire mindset it's just narcissistic as all get out. Not even gonna lie.
I mean, if Diddy wanted to give me money, I'd take money too from Diddy.
It's pure narcissism to say, no, I'm going to reject this because I have malice towards you or spite towards you. Or it's not. It's not spite. It's not. I know vibe. It's not spite. It's love. But whatever.
No, let me ask you this question, right? So, and I gave a non-hypothetical.
It was destiny. It was destiny.
Oh, destiny! I wouldn't take his money.
We were talking about destiny, but I gave a non-hypothetical where I have two secularist business partners, and we had the owners of many web properties, and then one of the web properties they owned was P-Hub, and they wanted to use our software, and I told my partners I didn't want to do that.
That would have been you engaging in promoting the business, right? So that's a different situation than the hypothetical where you're just being given free money.
Right. But because in a sense, I'm actually now helping them grow their business, right? Now I understand your hypothetical. You're like, well, they just came to you and they said they want to give you $1 million. I usually engage in hypotheticals and I hate when people don't engage in them, but in reality, let's say they gave you enough money to put them out of business. I would take the money too if it was going to put them out of business. But in reality, and a more realistic hypothetical would be, I'm going to give you this with no strings attached. However, the person giving the money knows there's strings attached. They know that they're going to get some PR out of it, whether you know it. You're just
why can't you just engage with the hypothetical? It's not a hard thing to engage with. You just won't do it because I
engaged with it, and I just said I would. Right?
You just said that, and then you started answering that there would be, or there would be strings attached.
Yeah. So
sorry. Maybe I jumped the gun because I assumed it would be a repeat of last night. I apologize. I didn't retract my.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. If you do your routine last night, if they gave me the money to put themselves out of business, I would take the money and I would not personally take. I would not be able to personally, consciously, not even because of God, just personally, consciously be able to take a cent of that. I would have to put it somewhere in like what you said last night in the recovery, the fighting of anybody else doing that. Right. I'm okay with that.
Why? I mean, no, but like, why?
No, that's not me. I'm not saying God's saying that you have to do that or that's a mandatory. I'm just saying my conscience could not live with taking that money that I know that the money I'm holding, even though they're out of business or whatever, even if they're not out of business, came from that abuse. My personal heart, outside of God, says I can't do anything with that money except put it to good. That's my personal opinion. This is not a Christianity fight, a secularist fight, or anything like that. My heart tells me that
I'm good. Yeah. I'm good with that. That answer is satisfactory for me.
Hey, your Constitution says that too. So freedom of association, good for you.
Yeah. No, I'm actually perfectly content with that answer right there. The other night, though, it was the way the conversation was going. It was much less of a humble personal belief and much more of a you would be bad for taking it to North. Yeah, and it wasn't just you, but
North was like, I'll just take money from anywhere. Like, he's like, I don't care as long as I don't promote it, I'm okay. Like, he had no like regrets about it. Like, he was saying it almost in an arrogant way.
But what should he feel any guilt for? Right? I can respect your own. If you feel a certain way about something, feel a certain way about it. Right? Like, I respect that it's your life. You do your thing. But why should anybody feel?
Opinion, but at the same time, I don't. Why would he? It lines up with Christian values, and he said he was a Christian.
And how? That's what I'm trying to get at. How does it harm anything or disalign if in the hypothetical? The hypothetical, not a derivative of it.
Okay, I can put this together just like I did for Glenn, and that monogamy is required by the New Testament.
Really?
But I try not to do Google searches, and I am not. I don't have every passage memorized, so I don't have a solid argument to put together. But I could definitely put together a solid argument for that. And I'm not just going to go off my ass and look like an idiot.
So you're declining to address it at this time, but
yes.
Okay, so we're getting a rain check for it.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm mad I got thrown into it. Like, wait a minute, like how I did Glenn, but then not explain anything.
No. You had your the Bible doesn't say anywhere there's a sin.
Yeah.
And I actually put together the Bible verses that basically threw together all those pieces that actually says it is a sin.
I haven't seen that yet.
Maybe it was like I think when you did that one, you did like 20 hours on that. So maybe you didn't catch it because you were tired or in bed.
Probably.
But I put together a really good argument.
Look, your argument goes against church history.
No. Okay. So actually, I brought church history in, but I'm not. Let's do the debate again. Let's do another one again. All right. Okay. So I'm going to bring. I know people. I already have some people DMing me right now that they want to be brought up here.
Are we talking? So was that the end of the many faces of the devil? Because I think that, like, my research there's a lot more faces or names for the devil than just the ones that you listed.
Oh, go.
So, like, I would have the deceiver, as in the serpent. We see that in the Genesis. We also see the deceiver in Revelations. Satan, the adversary, right? You reference Job, Zechariah, and then Chronicles. The accuser, we see that in Revelations. Lucifer, Isaiah, referencing the king of Babylon. Ezekiel, referencing the king of Tyre. The devil being the slanderer, right? We see that in Matthew and also in Peter. The tempter, we also see that in Matthew and Thessalonians. The dragon, the destroyer, we see that in Revelations 12-13. The evil one, we see that in John and also in 1 John. The prince of demons, Matthew, we see that, and also Luke. Angel of light, the counterfeit, right? We see that in 2 Corinthians. The murderer and the father of lies, we see that in John. And then, well, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So everything bad in the Bible by any name is Satan.
Yes.
Okay. I have an intellectual issue with that position.
What is that?
It just seems intellectually inaccurate that it doesn't, regardless of the name or the
Well,
context.
it's basically just
everything
anything
bad is
anti-Christ.
Satan.
Well, yeah, anything anti-Christ, anti-God would be.
So Satan then is a concept or a what is? Do you believe in a literal being as Satan, or is it a paradigm?
I think there's the angel Lucifer that had that title and that fell, and he became the deceiver, and wore all those titles. I still think it's still an individual, in hell, right? But I also think that these are archetypes, as also as you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that it has to be one or the other. I think it could be both.
Okay. It's pretty cool how fluid Christian views are. Very flexible. Are you dropping the link, Vibe, or is it
Yeah, so I just dropped the link. I've got a couple people in back chat right now. I got Shiva.
all right, you cool with me dropping it?
Can you cam up?
Shiva is cool. I could vouch for him.
Yeah. She was good people.
And then, of course, we got Animated Effigy.
We got two people who hate God and have never shown their face. I see.
Hello, smelly internet nerds. I don't hate God. I just don't think he's real.
Me neither.
I've been listening. I've been dipping in and out. I was very interested in the earlier part of your conversation where you guys were talking about the nature of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
So just to lay my cards on the table, I did think about coming up and trolling slightly, saying that I believe that morality is objective and can be found in the Bible, and then pointing to various biblical passages that I think we would all agree are pretty horrific. I'm largely a moral emotivist, which is a non-cognitivist position. So, on my view,
I don't know what that means any more than the first word you said.
That's good, because I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah.
So, moral emotivism.
He speaks the proper English, you guys. Educate yourselves.
He speaks Corinth.
It's the view that there are no moral truths, and that when people say, for instance, the act of theft is morally wrong, what they're doing is, rather than expressing something that's truth apt, they're saying how they feel about the act of theft. So, and it's non-cognitivist, because the view is that the responses that we have to a given act are largely emotional. And my own experience is that when I'm seeing an action that somebody is carrying out, and I have a kind of view as to the morality of that action, the first response is emotional, and then the rationalizations come later.
Yeah,
So-
I like what you'd mentioned, and liking the first part that you jumped in, and I was trying to actually kind of express that in a way, in the sense that as Christians, right, we have a book that we say is the moral truth. Anything that's outside of that is what you're talking about now.
That's called an idol.
Yeah, right. We're indoctrinated into something we believe, and we say it's true. Now, anybody outside of that is what she was talking about, and that's why I tried to kind of point to, if there was an ultimate end to the universe, right, and you could know that, even though we all know theoretically it's impossible, right, then it is kind of just personal feelings after that. When you see people, Christians like Andrew Wilson debating, he's like, our morals are objective, yours are subjective. However, I have to say, I kind of agree with the secularists on this point, that my belief, although I consider it objective, is subjective to you guys because I took this with you. No, I get it. I'll totally
Okay.
concede that point. I can totally concede it. We look at it as objective, and we do it through our faith and our heart and the Holy Spirit. I mentioned this the other day. I can't prove it to you either. I can use no scientific method.
The words that you say don't even word right. Like the concepts.
Can I ask you a question? Do you, on your view, if morals are objective, are they also absolute, which is to say unchanging throughout time, and universal, which is to say applicable to all beings?
So if we're talking about my Christian belief, that is unchanging. If we're talking about the secular belief, then it's ever changing.
No, I asked you on your view. That's why I prefaced the question with on your view.
Yeah, I said in my view as a Christian, it's unchanging.
So, right, then I am going to go into troll mode. I agree with you. Morals are objective, absolute, and universal, which means that it's sometimes objectively moral to slaughter babies.
Wouldn't it have to be always immoral? Wouldn't it have to be always objectively moral?
No, it's only objectively moral when God tells you to.
But if it's universal and God said to do it once, then that would have to.
Well, let's drop absolute and universal, and we'll just stick with objective. It's sometimes objectively moral to slaughter babies, right?
All right. I thought for a second we were going to have to kill all the babies.
No. I know where he's going, because in the Old Testament, like when we're claiming our promised land, right, through the Torah, it was permitted and justified to go in and it was a justified murder of maybe even people that just didn't believe in God, right? So I mean I understand where Shiva's coming from.
It was commanded.
It wasn't just permitted; it was explicitly commanded by God to Saul in 1 Samuel 15.
Right. So I'm not arguing with that. I am a Christian, which means I am not actually going 100% by the Old Testament, but we have a new covenant where that would not be permitted, right? So
wait. In Matthew 5:17, Jesus explicitly states that he hasn't come to abolish the law. He has come to fulfill it, and obviously to fulfill something means just to act as promised or expected. And then he further goes on to say in verses, I think 18 and 19, that whosoever, not one stroke or letter of the law shall be changed, and whoever teaches that you should will be considered the least in heaven, and whoever teaches that you should obey the law will be considered the greatest in heaven. Now, Paul later went on to repudiate this, right? So it sort of depends on whether you take the Paulian view or the Jesus view. But Jesus himself seemed to explicitly state that the Old Testament laws were valid and binding still, right?
Well, there's a change of order, but they are binding in the sense that, like, we can look at many things that were changed in the sense, like, let's look at sacrifice, right? Mm-hmm. Jesus was sacrificed, and he was the final sacrifice of everything of the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, we had to sacrifice animals and things like that.
And children, people.
So, no, there was never a sacrifice of children. There was a test. There was a test of somebody sacrificing their child, but
hang on. So, depending on whether you prefer the Greek or the Hebrew. In Greek, the word is anathema, and it's where we get our modern word anathema from. In Hebrew, the word is harem, and it means to put something under the ban, right? So when the Israelites waged war against the various cities, the people who were killed were put under the ban. Objects that are put under the ban are devoted to God, and we know this if we read Leviticus 27 verses 28 and 29, where the law says that anything that a person owns can be devoted to God. Anything that is devoted to God is considered most holy and has to be destroyed. The things that can be devoted includes anything that a person owns as property, and also explicitly includes human beings. And human beings so devoted have to be put to death. And the word is most commonly used in the context of military conquests, such as Joshua's conquest against the Canaanites, the slaughter of the Amalekites, the slaughter of the city of Ai, etc. I mean, there are a whole bunch of cities that were slaughtered. Everyone who was killed as a devotion to God. Like they were placed under the ban.
Well, that's pretty good for them. They're probably going to heaven. They probably love it there. God's happy. They're happy. Everybody's happy. What's the problem here?
So it is an interesting thing because, I mean, as I mentioned before, I mean, I did read from front to back the Bible. I've read it many times, but never front to back. I spent 3 years.
Needs to mute while they're typing. Please.
Yeah, Tyler, man, they were right, man. Like when you're on YouTube, like it ain't a problem, but on this panel, dude, it's really annoying. Like
It's the shitty talk studio.
yeah.
Just mute.
Give me 1 second here. The wife is calling.
And screw you, Charles.
Put her on speakerphone. Let us all talk to her.
Why not? It's a woman.
He's like,
right?
that will never happen.
So the other Christians on the panel, is your view that what is morally permissible is absolute? And if
Real
so,
quick. Sorry, can I jump in?
Want a
I just
hot
want to say,
take? No.
I want to tell you, lower class, that I love you, brother. You look like you need a hug today, or some that love of Jesus you were spreading the other night, and I'm sending some back.
Wow.
And Flo's my dog. No.
it's not absolute. Is it objective?
Sorry, guys. Give me 45 seconds. My wife sold something, and the buyer's outside. I have to take. She's not here, so I have to take
There
it outside.
goes the car.
Oh, you're good,
There goes the family car.
It's
Yeah.
probably just
Shiva, I
weed.
mean, like I said this earlier in the stream. This is like my perception on morality. So if you look across the world, if we were to have like one kind of big, it's not a Venn diagram necessarily, but you can see where morality overlaps all across the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's objective morality. It's like baked into people themselves. And then there's all the different things on the outside that connect with different things, different places.
Wait.
That's the
If it's
subjective nature of it.
if it's objective, it means that it's independent of people's opinions or views. Like that's
Yep.
what objective means, right?
Well,
So-
can't it be objective?
That's
though?
what one sense of objective means.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
is what it means in this
Yeah.
context that it exists independently of one.
Well, then I'm not talking in your context, Shiva. I'm
Let's
talking.
not get
in
into an
context
argument
currently.
about definition.
Like,
Don't tell us what to argue about, Chuck.
Is it? I mean, is it objective that all humans have skin?
Yeah, I think so. Apart from the ones who are.
Then, if
been
morality
freed.
comes from our physical being, then it can be objective that we all have some kind of morality. Because
Oh
it
yeah,
comes from
no,
us.
yeah. No, I'd agree with that. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't because I'm a moral emotivist. But yeah, sure. If you want to argue that we all have some sort of objective morality, I wouldn't necessarily have a difficulty with that view.
No,
but that's
see,
the same.
here's where I split the hair, though. I don't know if I would call it objective morality. I would say that it is objective that we have morality.
Yeah, of some sort.
okay, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Effigy.
It comes from
But
us. The way I always describe it is that everything starts with our instincts, our moral emotions, the things that we're born with. We're then taught moral reasoning through the people around us, interactions with humans, all that base learning, the beginnings of religion, and then we hone it with moral philosophy, moral ideology, choosing our paths and stuff like that. It's a complicated web to me. It's never just as black and white as it's a deontology that exists outside of us.
Yeah. Well,
Right, agreed. But I think you will also agree that that's saying something somewhat different to what Christians say when they say
well, yeah.
morality is objective, right?
It's why we argue with them, Shiva.
Yeah.
I'd like to commend you on your recent enlightenment into the world of moral objectivity, Shiva.
I mean, you know, I just found effigy that morals are objective and they're to be found in the Bible, and that we should all follow what the Bible says is good. No matter what the Bible says is good.
So isn't it more likely that morals are both objective and subjective, and that not everything is a damn binary choice like humans are always trying to peg them into? Right. So
thank you. That's what I was trying to say.
As an atheist, like, I can acknowledge that we derive some of our morals from the objective logic and things that existed prior to humans, right? But also at the same time that there are social construction components of our morality that we have all agreed on culturally to determine what right and wrong is. So it's a little bit of actually
moral norms. Moral norms are subjective morality.
But it derives from the actual physical universe and the intangible aspects of that universe that we're bound to.
Well, hang on. What do you mean by the intangible aspects of something that's physical?
Well, so there are the logic, the mathematics, things that you can't perceive physically that exist, like time.
Right.
So there are aspects of the universe that have shaped us as human beings and impacted our evolutionary scaffolding, right? So those intangible aspects are inherent inside of our morality.
I mean, although on my view, I would say that mathematics, and I'm a mathematical and logical anti-realist. So I don't think that they exist in the universe outside of our mind.
Lord.
But time probably does, although we don't really understand time.
That's cool, man. I hadn't heard that before. That's wild.
We do understand time, though.
No,
to
we
some
don't.
degree. To some degree.
I mean,
you
to
guys
some
like to
degree.
mentally masturbate. This.
No, I like to physically masturbate.
We can measure our perception of time, but we have no idea what like time itself outside of the measurement actually is.
So let's get back to the devil.
Yeah.
Satan
was the good guy. Like in Christian mythology, he was the guy that brought humans knowledge. All he wanted to do was be free, right? Y'all's mythology painted that guy out to be the hero, and the big man on top was just trying to keep him a slave without any kind of free will or choice, or force him into doing work he didn't want to do. He just wanted his own kingdom, right? Who doesn't want to be the king of their own castle, right?
He wanted to praise.
Satan's just a guy trying to make his way in the world, and God was trying to keep him down.
A simple.
Well, see, in the Garden of Eden, it was just two people who were fucking and eating and sleeping. And shitting. Like that's to be quite frank. That's literally all they did.
Wrong before they knew what wrong was, right?
Exactly. And then they ate the apple, and once they ate the apple, they had developed an element
doing
of
something wrong.
self-awareness. Probably spurred on from like the development of
obey before they knew
cortex.
not obeying was
and
wrong.
Once they did that, they developed ego. They were able to, I mean, there's a lot of different interpretations on what exactly happened in the.
Can I ask you a question, lower class? On your view, in order to commit an act of evil, do you have to know that the act you're committing is evil?
Yeah.
So I mean, okay. Like I said earlier, right? I'm going back to what I said earlier. Like evil to me is self-centered, not necessarily selfish, because eating healthy is selfish, but self-centered carnal desire, which is carnal desire acted out upon despite whether it hurts somebody else.
Right.
It hurts so good.
that doesn't really answer my. That doesn't really answer my question.
Well, I wasn't done. What I'm saying is that is evil. So most people who do self-centered things, whether they understand it's quote unquote evil or not, don't necessarily realize it's hurting anybody else until later on. So no, is what I would say.
So you don't have to know that what you're doing is evil in order for any given action to be evil.
No.
So your view would be a kind of consequentialist view then, right?
What do you mean?
rather than a deontological view.
That the
I think
outcomes matter more than the rule.
Well, is it more that a person has to have agency in order to be responsible for their own actions? Like you wouldn't say that a wolf is evil for eating a family, right? You would just say that
Right.
it was fulfilling its nature, right? So humans are animals, and they have a nature, and if they're not
that's the
intelligent,
lowest-
then,
Now we're going to get back into what I was throwing around in chat, which was teleological evil.
That was a who
If
effigy.
everything is made with intention, if everything is created as it is with intention, there are creatures that exist who the only way that they can reproduce is laying their eggs in the eyes of mammals, children. So did God intentionally create an animal whose only way to survive is to eat the eyes of children?
Well, yes, and also did he do that as a punishment after having planted the tree in the garden, put Adam and Eve in the garden, allowed the serpent access to the garden, made the serpent deceptive, and made Eve susceptible to the serpent's deception?
Well, and this goes back to when people start to say things. And now, let me say again, I said this before, I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't know the book like that, right? But when I read the Bible, I read it from a set of parables. I don't read it from it. This is literally exactly what happened in the way that it happened consistently, right? I don't necessarily think that that's how it is.
The whole book would be a parable, from what you're saying.
Then maybe it is, man. I mean, I don't know.
Presumably, you believe there was a man called Jesus who died and was resurrected. You believe that was literally true, right?
Well,
I mean,
there was a man named Jesus who was resurrected, and then he did rise out of his tomb.
I mean, supposedly,
Now we
Shiva,
eat
you
him.
believe that there was a man named Socrates that Plato later wrote about, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, right. So, and most historians, secularists and Christians, all pretty much believe that Socrates existed. Plato wrote about Socrates'
Right.
teachings, although Socrates never wrote about anything. Jesus never wrote about anything.
Right.
Other people
What
did.
about Gandalf?
And most
Well, hang on, wait.
historians also
What about
believe that he
Gandalf?
existed as well.
There is a
The
caveat though with
difference,
Socrates
yeah.
that everyone understands that we could tomorrow find something that proves that he was simply an amalgamation. There are people who we have discovered do not exist. There are playwrights who have written plays under pseudonyms that we thought were real people, and then we found out that they were actually pseudonyms for other people. Things like that in history do happen, right?
And to be
here
clear,
is that I'm
hang
not
on.
crazy for being a Christian and thinking
Hang on.
that even though secularists believe that Jesus existed through
Right.
history,
Well,
and
yeah,
secularists believe
I'd
that-
agree with you. I'd
Yeah.
agree with that point. But I added a second clause, and was resurrected from the dead.
Right. That's why you're
Right.
crazy, and that's why they're not the same. That belief system is not the same as, just saying somebody maybe wrote these things down.
Yeah.
Are you
so I
saying
mean,
that
here's
that's
the thing that
psychological?
I mean, I can address this, right? So the historians also believe that Paul existed. Paul did write. Now, before we
There are
start this
some people who
debate,
don't
I'm
believe
going to
Paul
go back. I'm
existed,
going to go back to Taylor, not Tyler, where he sent me a picture of a napkin, saying, I don't even remember. I'm not saying it word for word, but paraphrasing, because I wrote this on a napkin, it is now true, or something like that, right?
Right.
So just because Paul said, and although we do know, well, we believe historians that are Christian or non-Christian believe that Paul did exist and that Paul did write those letters. Now, if those letters are true or not, he did mention, and he was alive during the time of Jesus, that there were 500 witnesses of this, the raising of Jesus. And he even went so far to say, you can go find and talk to them now. He didn't just say, there are people there. He's like,
Yeah, but I could
when he
write that.
wrote it, he said, you can go find them and talk to them. So this is where the contention is, right? And
Vibe,
this is
don't be
where-
stupider than you are.
This is where everything fails.
Well, hold on. Don't
Is
go
that
past
it's
all the other
only
stuff.
written, it's only history. I cannot prove whether anybody actually tested Paul on that. I cannot prove that those witnesses actually did see him rising. And this one point of Christianity between Christianity and secularists, if you're going to go by science and fact base alone, I cannot give you any evidence of that just as much as I can't give you any evidence that Socrates existed, right?
Well, hold on, really quick, really quick. Hang on. Let me jump in. If we're saying that we can't easily prove that just one dude was crucified in a civilization that was crucified.
No, we do know that.
Right. Hang on. Let me finish. And they just put him in a tomb and he rose. Yeah, that's hard to prove. But what in the Bible, what it says happened is when Jesus was crucified, the sun went black, an earthquake split the city, and the dead rose from the grave. Somebody would have written that down, right?
Seems significant.
Seems like something that even the Romans would be like, "Fuck, I better go tell somebody."
Well, if you split the ground, it's possible you would have bodies, right?
And walking around.
Oh, I don't know about the walking around part.
And we do have multiple accounts within Roman history also of some of these events, not the groundbreaking or anything like that, but there are accounts outside of Christianity in the Roman Empire of these events, and the Jews actually have accounts in their own, which is kind of within kind of the same sect of
if
this.
Intentionally being ambiguous, that's a lie by omission vibe. Which events did the Romans write about?
I mean, I'll be generous. I'll bet you we can probably find, and I've read that I think there is somewhere around that time period a solar eclipse that happens sometime around there. So there's at least one thing that maybe could have happened around that time in the memory of the people in general.
Yeah, I haven't looked into the solar eclipse or earthquakes or anything like that. But I do know that
would simply be an astronomical event that we can actually track back when it happened, and it wouldn't have been.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually never looked into that. So, like, I have no knowledge of that or the history, so I have nothing to back up any claims I could make. I do have claims that I can make where there are accounts in the Roman Empire of Christ and Paul outside of Christianity.
Of Christians.
And see, this is always my big thing, is that you can never find any kind of mention of it around 70 AD. And I know people date some of the epistles.
When you tell people that there are Roman accounts of Christ, but you know that it's a Roman account of Christians, that's a fucking lie.
No, that's not a lie. That's not a lie.
Yes, it is.
Well, hold on. Wait. Just a second. Then what is the official Roman account of what happened that day?
Are you talking about Tacitus or Tacitus?
Yes, he is.
Tacitus?
Tacitus. That's what I mean.
Tacitus is our source for people saying that Nero was killing Christians, and Tacitus didn't write that down until like the late 60s, early 70s, from what people think.
Well, I mean,
yeah, but he also referenced like who the Christians were and who they were following, and
but this makes sense though, because everyone thinks that the gospel, the first gospel, was written around 70 AD when the temple fell. Everything seems to like conglomerate right around when the temple fell.
Well,
that was Matthew, wasn't it? The first gospel.
I think it's Mark.
You're talking about the Jewish temple, though.
Well, so it's not disputable that Christians exist, right? And they existed early in the Roman, or early, like in the first, second century, right? And that they enacted horrible crimes of hate against the pagans and defaced their statues and did terrible things that destroyed the Roman culture. I mean, the Christians, in the first couple of centuries were terrible people that basically subjected, lots and lots of people to torment, to force their ideology and worldview. They were radicals, right?
Well, I don't understand some of the accounts that we have from like Romans in the past 100 AD, 200 AD, is that some of them hated the fact that Christians were what they called radical givers. They would entice people to give away all of their money and all of their belongings, and to Romans in general, that was like, what the fuck? What did you make my son believe? It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, guys. Listen. So this is what is in the official Roman record. I don't know who said there wasn't a Roman account, but this is exactly what happened. So Pontius Pilate was directly involved in the crucifixion and subsequent burial of Jesus, ordering a Roman garrison and sealing the tomb with Roman seals. After the resurrection, the guards, fearing the supernatural event and the consequences of sleeping on duty, reported to the chief priests. And that's not Christian priests, that's Jewish priests. There were no Christian priests back then. The priest then bribed the guards to spread the rumor that Jesus' disciples had stolen his body while the guards were asleep, a story that the Roman and Jewish leaders never officially documented or investigated further due to the rapid spread of Christianity and the Christian claims of Jesus' resurrection.
What are you even
Can I
reading?
ask?
are
Are
you
you
reading?
reading that?
Yeah.
Are you reading that from an apologetics website?
No, that's actually just an AI response.
Because
Oh,
I
yeah.
just put
Oh, boy.
official Roman record of Jesus into Google, and the AI response that came up was, there is no single official Roman administrative record of Jesus, such as government-issued trial or crucifixion report.
We
But there are
there are no
non-administrative Roman.
contemporary.
Yeah.
So they gave both of
like,
us two different responses.
From all the research I've done, there is no accounts of the crucifixion or the trial on the Romans, but there are accounts of him existing. I was not making a claim that there's an official court record of that. So yeah,
What
you
is
are
the
correct.
what?
The-
Okay,
the-
what
the
is
reason
what is
why-
the account? What is the
the reason-
account?
The reason
What is
why
the-
I brought Jesus and his crucifixion up was because we were kind of circling around the problem of
Okay,
evil.
well, stop hogging the conversation. What is the point? What specifically is the
Shut
thing?
the fuck
Vibe?
up.
Suck my dick, Britt.
I mean, I am gay. so,
Vibe.
you know.
Ah, damn it. Eat my pussy. Vibe. I want to follow down the claim you just made about there being Roman accounts of Jesus existing. Let me have it. I know it's not there. I know it doesn't exist. I know you're lying.
No, I have it.
Already
I have it.
those-
I have it. I have it.
I've done this with Christians
No,
before.
yeah.
They always flake out.
So while he's looking that up, the reason why I brought like
I even noted it.
we're talking about the resurrection was because we were kind of circling around the problem of evil insofar as it relates to the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent and the tree. And lower class said that he didn't necessarily take all of the Bible as being literally true. And so I asked him whether he took the fact that Jesus existed and was resurrected as being literally true, because I kind of wanted to find where the line was, like between what's literally true and what's kind of allegory or metaphor.
Yeah, I don't know, Shiva. You say a lot of big words. I'm a dumb redneck from Alabama. You know, I ain't got a clue what you're talking about.
I don't believe that for a second,
Yeah,
Anthony.
I don't know. I'm just an old chunk of coal, man. I ain't got no clue. But yeah, if you think that there was some like guy that walked on water, you're a big dummy.
I don't disagree. And I fail at being nicer about it. Yeah, no, you're right.
And welcome, John. We've been expecting you on this podcast for a long time, so I'm glad you finally made it here.
Sorry. I this morning I was having some issues with pain, and so sometimes I have to take something that helps with that, and it makes you a little sleepy.
No worries. Personal health first, always.
Did you just show up and buy something from Vibe's wife? Is that what that was?
By the way, I know what Shiva was trying to do, and I understand the position he was trying to make because he was responding to something that lower class said. So, Shiva, I understand where you were coming from, and I understand the point you were trying to make. And there is a logical reason why, and I was able to pick up on why you were doing that. So just so you know, there's not
Well,
not everybody.
thank you, John. And I hope that gains
I like
some people.
Shiva's arguments. They're good.
How's that source coming, Vibe?
I'm almost there because I put notes
Yeah,
together on this
I mean,
3 weeks ago.
You're
So
just
I'm
not
just
going to
trying to
find
go-
anything. The earliest Christian writings are considered some of the epistles, some of Paul's writings, and those are contested themselves.
Yeah, well,
Those are the ones we have.
I heard Andrew Wilson say that there was contemporaneous proof. He's never lied, so I'm gonna take his word for it. Use him as
Well,
an
it's also why we
authority.
fight so much over like the Josephus reference and stuff, and that's not until like after 100 AD. The Tacitus mentions all these are well after.
I mean, I think Andrew Wilson counts as a primary source for me. If he said that it happened, then
Lord.
like he.
Okay, so
Andrew
Andrew
Wilson can't
Andrew
open the
Wilson
jar
is
of
not
pickles.
allowed to speak to any of this stuff because he's Orthodox. And he probably hates me. And if he were to watch this podcast, he'd freaking denounce me in a half a second.
I will say this: the problem that we
That's just another reason why you can't really claim objectivity so hard when you Christians can't even agree amongst yourselves.
The problem.
Oh no,
that we
hey,
have-
effigy, I'll give you that. I mean, I can grant that. That's pretty easy. I actually love the Orthodox view in the sense that if I'm reading the Bible and I'm like, I think it means this, but am I wrong? Their answer is, we'll just ask an Orthodox priest, because he knows exactly what Jesus said.
Why wouldn't you ask God?
Why
That's
would
he know?
How would the
There's
priest
an
know?
inherent issue baked into
Well,
that-
because
into that,
through
right?
the Orthodox religion, the original apostles that were taught by Jesus put their hands upon their basically apprentice, right? So
Yeah,
if you're learning how to make a
that's
sword,
But
you
these are
have
all
an apprentice,
claims. They're just
and you teach them how to do it the exact same way, right?
How
And
do
you
we
just
audit
keep on
this
doing
claim?
I agree with you.
Everything in the early churches, as far as the Orthodox Church, Catholic Church, everything in their early history is just church tradition. We can't prove that the apostles all died in the ways that it's tradition that
It's
they
tradition.
died. We can't
It's
prove any of that.
absolutely-
It's all just
absolutely
tradition.
I'm not arguing with you on that, by the way.
I'm just saying that there's a fuzzy point in Christian history where it's kind of
It
more
is.
mythological than actual proven history. And
Yeah.
while I may be wrong in that there may be some actual history in there, right now you have to kind of treat it as just tradition.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can see that, right? So we can see that there is definitely history that exists that is provable.
I'm still waiting on that history, by the way.
The only problem I have is that then you'll have people like Dawkins to talk about the spaghetti monster, and then they make it a completely different, like completely obtuse comparison to Christianity to other religions, and that's when you become, I think, intellectually dishonest about the
It's only
information.
obtuse because the deity is silly sounding, but it
No, it's
functions
not
exactly
just
the
about-
same.
It's not just about the silly soundingness of it. When you try to correlate to other religions outside of them, we'll talk about the main three because those things are usually having around the kind of consistency. But I'm talking about other religions in general. But here's the thing.
But those religions you believe are false. So why are you leaning on false religions to prove the truthiness of your?
No, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not talking about religion from a theological or from a religious. I'm talking about it from a pure scholastic understanding of how one would go about trying to logically make arguments in their consistency. And it goes back to the same thing I wanted to say too, as well, with scripture, which is this. You're right. We don't have completed source material as old as like 35 AD, 36 AD. However, to say that, well, the first ever scripture was ever written was like 200 AD is complete, for the New Testament, is complete bogus. So I
don't think anybody said that.
Well, but see, this is how it's alleged.
70,
right?
I think.
This is how it becomes alleged, though, is my point. And I'm being a bit histrionic for a point, which is
You're just fighting straw men.
No, it's not a straw man. I'm being histrionic for a point, which is that when we make these kinds of arguments about whether or not Scripture has these kinds of things, there's a impulse to try to make it seem as if it all doesn't come about, or that the first kind of Scripture isn't really kind of discovered 300 years till after Jesus, and it's just not true. It's just not true. But the completed canonization of the scriptures, that you could make an argument for, and we don't have the completed text. And then even when they did that,
Shout out to my great grandpa Constantine.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Mosman, then how do you address the mysticism in your religion, right? You're just kind of dancing around all that, pretending like, all right, well, there's records of stuff or whatever. But so the Mother Mary, right? She gave birth. She was a virgin, and she wasn't like going around sleeping with dudes and got caught by her guy and was like, "Oh, but I got to make up this shit story," right?
Turns out Joseph was the virgin in that marriage.
Yeah, like she basically publicly cucked her husband and blamed it on some god, right? I mean, how do you get around that in your mythology, right?
Well, first of all, I don't treat it with that kind of vain kind of
pessimistic, yeah.
I mean, that's obviously. I understand why you're saying it the way you are, for the effect that you're saying it.
Well, no, because it's the real story, right? It's absent all of the emotional
what's the real
attachment
story
to the
is what you're trying to do is editorialize what you believe something to be said, and then claim that is actually true. And
isn't that what Christians are also doing?
That's what you guys are going to go after Christians for. Then
Isn't that what Christians are also doing with that very same story?
You can make that argument. True, maybe you can. Yeah, but I'm not the one that's also decrying other people for doing that either.
How's that source going, Vibe?
Yeah, so the notes that I took, and I don't have the sources, but I'll look at the
I know
sources.
you don't.
I can find them.
No, I know you don't. Don't like.
You're gonna like my
I'm gonna
sources.
keep.
So shut up.
I'm gonna keep bothering you publicly. Okay, go ahead. Let's dazzle me.
So I
Hey,
actually
real
wrote-
quick, guys.
it-
Hey,
it-
I'm gonna jump out. You guys have a great night. Dusty, I might jump over to yours in a little bit. Peace.
Lower
guys.
class, thank you for
Be good.
joining. I hope you had fun.
Peace.
Don't be a
I did,
stranger.
man. Thank you for inviting me on, Vibe. I appreciate it, bro. Later, guys.
All right, be good.
All right, so
Vibe,
I'm
dazzle
actually
me. I'm ready.
I'm going from my original notes here, and
Not from the source that you have.
no, I'm doing my notes for my source, but I have them also. I'll give them to you. So when it really comes down to when Jesus existed, the Romans didn't even care about Jesus. He was a freaking mosquito. This is what I basically wrote. Jesus was a mosquito during the time of his, because he really didn't become a factor until like 300. So the Romans basically looked at him as like a mosquito. It was just they never wrote a long attempt. What I wrote here is they never wrote anything long about him. Because it was mosquito, but they wrote that he was bitten. Tactius did document that they executed Jesus.
He was describing the belief of the Christians.
And Josephus said that he did existed and he was crucified. And
Both of them. No, do you see how you're lying to me?
Yeah,
No, I'm not lying. I'm writing what was documented by the Romans.
What they documented is what Christians believed 100 years after Jesus' death. They didn't document Jesus. You are lying for the Prince of Lies.
Okay, I'm telling you.
When you present it that way, that is a lie.
That even if they wrote it 100 years later, am I lying that they documented it? And did I not
what
describe
context?
that Jesus meant nothing
See,
to them?
The whole
until
point
300
was
years
to give
later?
us a contemporary
I
source.
actually gave you
Contemporary
the
means at the
truth.
time.
I
No, you
admitted
didn't.
the truth.
Now you're full of shit.
No, I already said.
That is not you said that there was a contemporary document of
They
Jesus.
didn't have an email then effigy, so I guess.
And what you presented was what I already told you was out there, which was a description of the Christians 100 years later.
Okay, so if you already gave that
That's
to me, then I'm not lying. So we both agree on that.
I'm not giving you that. You are still lying to me.
I looked at
How's
my
he
notes
lying
and
to
I
you? How's
told
he
you
lying?
word
What
for
did-
word
what
what
did he
you
say that's a
actually agree
lie?
with.
What does he say that's a liar?
He's saying that the Romans, originally it was contemporary Romans, but that they documented Jesus' existence. They did not document Jesus'
did.
existence.
Just later, you even said they didn't document until 100 years later. You just said
They are describing the Christian belief system. They're not attesting to its truth or
But they
that it
document it.
happened.
I looked it up and I told you exactly my notes, and you
There's
agreed
the
with my
deepest
notes.
quote at this point is.
There's
I'm sure that God really appreciates you lying for it on his behalf. He needs that.
There's another source for the death of Jesus, which is the Jewish Sanhedrin documents. The problem for the Christians, the Sanhedrin documents being a record of the court processes, the problem for the Christians, of course, is that those documents record Jesus as being stoned to death and hung.
Right. That's a factually correct statement. That is what they say, and that becomes an inconsistency within how Christians claim the death of Jesus. That's understandable to that becomes a thing. However,
see, and that would be something more palatable to someone like me, who is on the fence as to whether or not the person existed at all.
Right.
If you give me some concrete means to show that, like, minus all the supernatural shit that you guys have in your religion,
right.
But if you just show me that this person could have existed, the people really loved what he was saying and loved him so much that they wanted to carry on his legacy by making him bigger than he was, like, that is something that happens countless times in history. Most of the gods in the pantheons of humanity are simply people who made an impact on the world and then were elevated into godhood after they died by their own people.
Right, but if he is truly the true God, then the things that and if those people are considered then false gods, then the things which bear the truth of a false god would not necessarily be corresponding to that of the true God. Also, I want to say this about Tacitus and Josephus. Tacitus and Josephus, and I don't know what Vibe said, but they do not attest to the claims of what Jesus and the apostles say. They merely, and more than anything else, show their disgust for the first Christians and the disgust that they have for the movement, which, again, the reason why Christians even started off using these sources is because you had people for the longest time say, well, there was never really a Jesus, and they've put all kinds of shell games about, you know, his name, and then there's been all these different kinds of things, and it's pretty dang clear that when you read Josephus, he understands that the person that they're talking about is the person that we know as Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, and that the people who followed him believe these kinds of things, and it makes one have to deal with the assumption that I think is the logical conclusion of the entire Christianity, Christian claim. The problem is that a lot of people don't want to actually go through that logical framework to encounter that. So, and that's why it's hard.
He thinks you take a step too far when you say that there's a logical conclusion to say that because someone said one raised from the dead.
No. What I think you're missing what I'm saying, Effigy.
I think I did too.
The logical conclusion is that either Jesus was a madman, Jesus was a liar, or that everybody who came out, or that what he said is true, or the fourth thing is that the people who followed him lie. Like there's a lot of different aspects of those things, which is what I'm saying is. But whenever people try to argue those things, they go outside of those normative ways in which you would discuss the logical reality of what the claims versus the claims of people who claim to be the claiming people, right? And this is why antiquity, as much as I love and appreciate my Orthodox friends, antiquity itself is not a necessitator of what is true, and consistency. Well, they might as well then just be a bunch of evolutionists at that point, because evolution has, especially Darwinian evolution, had a consistency and a consistent belief that people had upheld to it. So those things alone, to me, don't actually merit anything. So, but if you're going to make a claim about whether something is true or right or whatever, when you're going through the Christian text, then you have to take the scholastic approach first before you do anything else. And I think that's why it's important that we make sure as Christians, and we as Christians have done a terrible job of presenting the arguments, because we're trying to win on a field where it does not bear itself, right? There's logical inconsistencies that make it almost difficult and impossible for us to make it a logical position for people to hold to.
What is flow state ranting about?
I don't know. He's talking to his people, trying to grift.
And I wanted to circle back to something, Vibe, if you don't mind.
Take us back to the devil, Chuck.
No, he was talking about the money, the passing of money last night. And this first time I'd seen the, what's his name? Cornerstone or Connor, whatever his name was.
Coomer Point.
First time I'd seen the guy. But it looked to me like he was, pardon my French, cock blocking for Destiny, which would then make taking the money wrong, because he is therefore subscribing to Destiny's beliefs, whether he wants to or not, by drawing in more people.
I had you guys muted so I could yell at my chat. Are you saying that if somebody takes money and in return carries water for somebody who's bad, that's bad?
Yes.
Okay, so the receiving money is not bad, but doing things in furtherance of the bad person,
of the bad person's behavior.
Right.
Yes,
right,
is what I'm saying.
And is Destiny the bad person in this context?
Yes, just grant it for the sake of argument.
Yes. Yeah, let's not get into this.
It's so pretentious. It's crazy.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, I'm going to put this out there. I quite like Destiny.
Of course you
I'm going to let you guys go for a little bit. My kids are asking for some food, so I'm going to make some food. If you guys want to keep on going,
Kids are
we
more
can go. If
obedient
you
than
guys want
hungry.
to jump over another channel, that's fine. But I'll come back if you guys are still debating this.
Yeah, I'll make sure that they don't go TOS vibe. You just give me the keys to your channel. I'll treat
No,
them
no,
with
I don't
care.
know. I would take those words with a grain of salt when it comes to Anson.
I'll be naked in about
No,
2
I trust
minutes.
Anson. Anson and I
Well-
have a history, even if we don't agree in views. I trust people that even don't agree with me.
Anson's an atheist. Anson's an atheist, so he has less of a track record of lying to himself and everybody around him. Like he's got that going.
So
I
I'd
would
like to
argue
circle
with
it back
that.
to the devil, if we could, because I'd have a question for the Christians. Do you guys sometimes think that?
Well, I
you
think I'm now
guys
the only
are-
Christian in here, aren't I?
You and Chuck.
I'm
not a
not familiar
Christian.
with what
Do you guys
Chuck-
ever
I don't know if
think that you are wholesale, like reinterpreting someone else's holy book when you say that your version of Satan is like the devil in the Old Testament, when that's not at all what Jews believe in their holy writings?
You could make that. You can probably make that argument. Yeah.
It always seemed really strange to me because
I'm a
they
spiritual
don't believe that at all.
subscriber.
But then you go to a Christian church and they'll sit there and go through the Old Testament and be like, "This is what it is. This is the devil doing this." It's
Right.
like, well,
Well,
that's not even your book.
But see, here's the thing. So obviously, we would say that there is aspects of our holy scripture that come from the Torah, that come from the Old Testament, right? So the question is what is the Christian belief about what the extent of what those things mean? Obviously, we see it and interpret it differently than our friends in the Jewish church or the Jewish religion or whatever you want to call it. But let's also understand too that part of that comes down to the fact that there's a belief within Christianity that there has been often people who have gone off the book, if you want to call it, or off the reservation when it comes to what is being consistently within the Word of God, a consistent path of salvation, a consistent path of truth. And so the question is, just because we have a difference on the surface, well, first of all, are we going to measure this against the Jews of today? Are we going to measure this against the Jews of the first century? What Jews are we measuring this against? Because I'm going to make an argument that is substantially true, which is what they believe now is not even close to what they believed in the first century.
Oh, sure.
Just the invention.
I'd make that argument for Christians as well. I mean,
of course, absolutely, 100%. And that's the thing. And part of the problem we have in Christianity, effigy, is that what we've done is a lot of people don't want to admit or acknowledge that we've already inherited, whether we want to look at the New Testament or the Old Testament, inherited a doctrinal viewpoint of things, especially those of us who were raised in a church, that we've already received a doctrinal, dogmatic position, and we're already from the get-go looking to affirm that within the scripture, or have that, or we try to confirm that bias within the scripture. And this is what leads to a lot of the conflict that we have within the Christian church, of people having disagreements about what the text actually says. But I would say that there are consistencies to your argument, that we are constantly doing that. And the reason I'll say that is because even our understanding of hell obviously is different than what the Jews believed, right? So, I mean, in death in general, too.
absolutely.
So,
And this is kind of my point on it. And Vibe was kind of making the point earlier when he was going through the Old Testament, and I think it was lower class as well, and saying all of the different names they had for the devil and how it was the accuser, the adversary. And my point being is that these are all stories from different groups at different times who had different ideas of the personification of evil. Like they themselves, the Old Testament itself is a conglomeration of stories over time.
absolutely.
Right? And some of them reinterpreted from much, much older civilizations, especially when you get to the older Bronze Age stuff, which is almost purely mythological. Most historians believe, or most biblical scholars believe.
Or you could make the scholastic. That's why I like to use the scholastic avenue. The scholastic claim, you could even see too, where there's things that are borrowed from other sources as well, and then reinterpret it for sure.
Well,
Not
does that make
even
me a psychopath then, since I have seen things that I interpreted not as the devil, but as bad or evil? Does that make me a
No,
psychopath?
we've all seen things that we interpret as bad.
and the only way that I was able to get rid of said things was by prayer.
It sort of depends on the thing that you mean. Look, I mean, I don't particularly have a problem with prayer as a method, but on my view, the prayer would be you working on your own mind, not you appealing to some external source.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to figure out. Am I just freaking nut, or did I see what I saw?
Well, I don't know what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, hallucinations
they
are
were
real.
They were black burbs, for lack of blurbs, whatever you want to call them, that were encircling my room.
So you saw the
And-
shadow people? You were having a psychotic break?
How many days had you been up on meth?
I've been done that, you
Only if he
crackhead.
was your friend, I think you could get away with saying that kind of thing.
This was a couple of months after I'd sobered up.
Yeah.
I'll throw
Yeah, I mean-
that caveat in there.
I will say that what is it, sleep paralysis, or what they used to call old hag syndrome?
It
is,
wasn't sleep paralysis.
Yeah, but I do think a lot of people who believe they've seen certain entities or believe that they've been invaded by aliens or whatever, a lot of that is that kind of consistency of when you're in between the complete full dream and wake cycle, for sure.
So I've got a question, Chuck. You said it was a couple of months after you sobered up. How long had you been an alcoholic consistently prior to that? Because you could have just had like
a good 20 years.
Yeah,
And
so
I spent a month and a half in the hospital trying to get off the shit.
yeah. So you could have just been having some
Yeah,
sort
so
of
your body's
residual
going through some wild shit then. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I
alcohol's
died
one of the
twice.
few drugs that stopping cold turkey can kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I died twice in the hospital. So
Well, fuck, there you go, man. Well, I'm glad you're still here, Chuck.
So it's kind of
Me
to be
too.
expected that you'd have like some wonky things going on.
well, that's what I'm asking. You know, it could have been 2 months.
Well,
it
I
could
don't
have
know
been
why you're
3 months.
asking that though. How would anybody know?
I don't
How would
know.
anybody
I thought-
know?
By the way, you guys are all my favorite atheists on YouTube, just so you know.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I love you too, like a gay uncle.
I'm moderately fond of
Whoa.
you.
Whoa.
Just know, yeah, this is kind of the all-star atheist panel, isn't it? We just kind of took over Vibe's show.
Yeah.
I'm
Could you
not-
imagine somebody like going, like, "Oh,
I'm
is this the
not
Bible
dogma
study?" And then they come
Christian.
in here.
I
and it's
guess God favors us today.
Is that because the theists all ran away?
You know, with all the
Apart
Pharaoh's
from-
magic
apart from
tricks,
John.
Pharaoh's
John
magic
Stephen.
trick of the disappearing fucking sources of Jesus.
I'm just glad we're not the annoying atheists. Those guys are terrible.
Oh my
Atheists
Oh, I'm
as a
definitely
group.
annoying.
I like Christians better than atheists on whole. Like atheists can be weirdos as fuck.
I don't have
Yeah.
a preference for one
Being atheist
demographic.
tells you nothing about the human being.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have one.
But for
preference.
some reason, if you go to atheist channels, there's a type.
I don't have a preference for one demographic over the other because I tend to take people